is 6 a.m. Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. We're off and run. We got a whole show planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, we've got John Decker joining us. He's the White House correspondent. Donald J. Trump sat down for an hour-long interview with Meet the Press over the weekend, discussed everything from NATO, Ukraine, to the latest on the border and mass deportations, and maybe possibly a deal with Democrats on Dreamers. It was a wide-ranging conversation. We're going to talk with John Decker about that in a second. And then Laura Thomas, no longer a county commissioner in Douglas County, resigning her position over frustration with her colleagues, Abe Layden and George Teal. We're going to get into the details on that. And Laura Thomas is going to be joining us. We're going to talk Syrian war. We're going to talk Donald Trump visiting Notre Dame. Whole lot of things to cover today, so you're not going to want to miss it. Bill, did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was busy. It was a busy weekend, but it was good. We made Christmas, from Nightmare Before Christmas, making Christmas, yeah. So we sing that, and yeah, it was one of those things where, and I saw the Hunt family. You guys went out and got a Christmas tree, didn't you?
We did.
Saw that on social media.
We actually went to Divide, Colorado.
Nice.
And I was like, friends, let me tell you about a man named Dwayne from Divide.
Yeah, now that was really cool to see that. We did that when the kids were younger, and back when we did live trees. We've given up the live tree thing because a couple of years it came real close to being a fire hazard. In fact, 1 year was 1 year's a total fire hazard. We didn't turn on the lights for the last couple of days because we were afraid those were going to burst into flames. So we decided after those adventures, we're like, nah, we're not very good at this. So we transitioned into the pre-lit Christmas tree. So we did a lot of that, but we didn't get a lot of all the stuff out. We've got a bunch of boxes, but we decided to kind of go a little smaller this year. But yeah, it's kind of nice, and it was neat. I think I've told you this before. One of the things that we do is that with the kids, well, since my wife and I, we picked it up from my parents, but my wife and I started this when we got married, is every year we have a gold glass ball. And with a pencil, you write in the major significant things that happened that year. And then when you take out all the glass balls over the course of Christmas, as you're decorating the tree, you then read them. So it is this journey through the family history as you're decorating the tree.
Oh,
and
nice.
The kids love doing that. The kids grab the ones, oh, this is the one where I have this. And then they yell out and they yell it out. And so it's something that's really entertaining for them. And they're like, oh my gosh, I remember when this happened. I remember when that happened. And so, yeah, it's kind of this nice walk down memory lane. So it's kind of neat. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. How about you? How was your weekend?
Great. I mean, the ride all the way to Divide was a trip. We got down there, and then you have to go on these forest roads, right? And you're sliding around. And at one point, we went up a big road, and then slowly went back down while my foot was entirely on the brakes. And I just turned to my wife, and I was like, I'm putting my foot all the way down at this point, and we're just slowly sliding back down.
Nothing I can do.
And
here.
so,
yeah,
it was kind of like sledding in a big,
how fun.
Dodge Ram.
Oh, that's great.
And then found the tree and drug it about a quarter of a mile back to the car. We all had to carry it. So that was a family
that is
adventure.
The worst part of the cutting your Christmas tree is getting the tree back to the car. The rest of it is fun. Walking out there, finding the right one, cutting it down, all fun. Now it's, who's going to drag it back to the tree? Yeah, that's the worst part. That is the worst part.
And we all got to work together because we put it in our entryway, which goes all the way up 2 stories. So it's about 15 feet tall.
Wow.
So, yeah, it took all 6 of us.
Yeah, it looked like it was a huge tree. So it looks like a lot of fun. Nice. Oh, that's fun. That's fantastic.
So I'm waiting to hear from Dwayne because Divide's a nice place.
Yeah.
Stopped and grabbed some dinner there and all that fun stuff. So it was good. Good weekend. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Glad you had a good weekend. Sounds like a beautiful tree. Can't wait to look at it. I'll check it out on social media. 28 and partly cloud. By the way, that's a really cool thing that you do, Billy, with the family. I like that idea.
Oh, thanks. We took it from my parents, started it. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing. We're now been married 27 years. So it's 27 gold balls. So yeah,
awesome.
It's kind of cool. Some of the ones that, that start out when you're just getting married and you look at different jobs, you look at the kids and different stories. And yeah, it really is kind of a neat way to kind of walk back in time. All these little things that you forget over the course of the year. Yeah.
What a great idea.
In fact, here's the thing, man. Look, that's normally at weddings, that's like my go-to gift. Because guess what? It's a wonderful memory creator.
Yeah.
And
idea.
A glass gold ball, not so expensive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very good.
Not so expensive.
Good.
Yeah. So it's kind of a win-win. I'm just saying, it's a win-win. Yes.
I love the creativity. Excellent. Hey, it's 28 and partly cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 37 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the city of Denver is opening additional cold weather shelters today as snow moves into the area. The Department of Housing Stability says the shelters will open at 1 o'clock today and will remain open until 11 Wednesday morning. A TSA checkpoint at DIA is closed and is unlikely to reopen unless there is an urgent need. The bridge security checkpoint at the airport shut down overnight. The TSA says it will redirect resources to the west checkpoint to improve passenger processing times. And that I was disappointed with that a week ago because, man, I love going across that bridge.
Dude, the A bridge was like the Colorado secret.
Yes.
That only residents of this state knew about, because everybody else that was just showing up here as a visitor, that type of thing, was going to go to the first security gate they ran into. Exactly. But you always knew there was the secret one that if you just walked a little bit further, went over the bridge, there'd be less people there.
Yeah.
This feels like a slap in the face to Colorado residents.
It does, man. I was like, right a week ago when I saw that it was closed, I was like, man, come on. Did Californians take over this thing too, or what happened? And
it's then the lizard people.
Yeah.
They're protesting. They've had enough underneath.
Right. And my little
DIA. By the way, do you know there's the same amount of square footage, like streets and mileage, under Denver International Airport as Manhattan?
Really?
Yeah. That's why people are like, there's got to be a whole city. There's got to be some lizard people under there.
Absolutely. No, I think, the kids are going to love that when I tell them that. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, man.
It's huge.
Yeah, I was upset about that. And my secret parking place is all closed now. Also, I can't get in there. I used to drive in there, and there are about 30 people who would park in there, and that thing's closed up. It's no fun anymore. The former commander of the U.S. Central Command says U.S. troops stationed in Syria are likely in less danger after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime. On Sunday, retired Marine Corps General Frank McKenzie told ABC's This Week, while there may be fewer threats to U.S. troops, the presence of those troops is still important to the fight against terrorist groups in the region. The search continues for evidence in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. NYPD dive crews were back in Central Park on Sunday searching a pond. Police have yet to recover the gun used in last Wednesday's shooting in Manhattan, and they haven't identified the suspect. And that is not good news as time goes on here now, days and days and days from the shooting. DJT says children born in the U.S. could be deported if their parents are in the country illegally. In an interview with NBC's Meet the Press, Trump said he doesn't want to break up families, and so children may have to leave alongside their undocumented parents once he takes office. Trump also reaffirmed his commitment to ending birthright citizenship. He also talked about dreamers.
The dreamers are going to come later. And we have to do something about the dreamers, because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age. And many of these are middle-aged people now.
Jurors in the trial of Daniel Penny will resume deliberations today in New York. The jury only has a charge of criminally negligent homicide left to consider after Manhattan Supreme Court Judge Maxwell Wiley dismissed the top charge of manslaughter on Friday. Penny, of course, is a former Marine accused of causing the death of Jordan Neely after putting a chokehold on him. Neely was threatening people's lives and losing his mind on a subway train. A woman is okay after running into a burning house in Aurora to save the family dog. The fire was reported Sunday afternoon near the intersection of East Mansfield Avenue and East Loyola Drive. The woman reportedly entered the burning home to rescue the dog before firefighters arrived. The woman was treated at the scene for smoke inhalation, but declined to go to the hospital, and the dog is okay. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. CU Buffs will play the BYU Cougars in the Alamo Bowl on December 28th in San Antonio, and CSU will take on Miami of Ohio in the Arizona Bowl also on the 28th. And yes, it is sponsored by Snoop Dogg. Great. Jeez. What is
Snoop
this
Dogg?
This world has come to.
Is he going to be the only rapper left that doesn't end up with all these allegations against him?
You know what? Maybe. And maybe I'll have a little respect for him. Jeez, man. I find that hard to believe, but we'll see. Yeah, all of them are going to be evidently in some type of.
There's still some solid ones out there.
Really?
You still got Ice-T, you still got Cube.
Oh, yeah,
that's
Dre,
right. You got M. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Ice-T is a veteran.
Ice-T was on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon this past week with his rock band Body Count. I think it was Wednesday night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they covered Pink Floyd.
Really?
Yes. So just
hold on. Ice-T has a rock band that covers Pink Floyd, and he plays on Jimmy Fallon?
Yes. And I'm a little disappointed in you, my partner, that you did not know about Body Count, Ice-T's rock band. Been around since the 90s. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know.
Body Count's awesome.
It sounds like a foreign language we're talking here.
I've seen them live. They're really good. They're very, very aggressive. Very aggressive. Very much in the more of the rock and mayhem side of things. But yeah, they showed up on Fallon and they played a version of Comfortably Numb. Now they did the chorus, but then T added his own lyrics. It is really good.
Really?
It's really good, but it's also very disappointing because it's not Body Count. It's not at all.
Yeah,
it's just sad. I mean, okay, here's the idea. Let's say it'd be like Jeff Blake and I, and we all get tickets to go see our favorite rock band. We can just imagine what that is. So we're going. We have got second row tickets, okay? Lights go down. Band comes up on stage. Says, "Hey, thanks for coming. Tonight, we're doing a medley of our favorite Christmas carols. Dashing through the snow with one horse." And you're like, hey, not what I paid for. That's what it got to me is they did a really good job doing Pink Floyd, but that's not Body Count. I'm like, I wanted Body Count. I wanted to see Jimmy Fallon's face on, the hell is this? I was dying for that. And instead, he's all, nah.
We need to have an audio that just warns our listeners when Bill Thorpe goes full Rain Man.
Yeah. Makes me mad. They'd be so mad on Body Count. I'm like, this is not Body Count. This is, you liars. Yes.
I can understand what you're saying, Billy. Not really, but I can understand what you're saying. That's awesome. Good. All right, 24 in Castle Pines, 26 in Thornton, and 28 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A bit of a change in the weather for Denver in the Front Range. It's going to be a lot colder this week as daytime temperature readings are going to be only in the 30s today and probably only upper 30s tomorrow as a cold front sweeps through the region. For today, tonight, and early Tuesday, we may see a few snow flurries. Lows tonight upper teens to near 20. Lows tomorrow night, teens and lower 20s. Sunny, back to the 40s and 50s. Breezy, probably dry again for Wednesday and Thursday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So Donald Trump talked about everything from deportations to tariffs and everything in between in a wide-ranging interview on Sunday with Kristen Welker of Meet the Press. Joining us to provide some insight and analysis, John Decker, White House correspondent. John, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me on today. I think that's the way you described it is very accurate. Wide-ranging interview. It was Donald Trump's first post-election interview with a broadcast television network, NBC's Kristen Welker conducting that hour-long interview. And you're right, it really delved into so many different topics. Talked about how border security is the number one issue that he will focus on upon taking office. During the course of the interview, he said that he would like to end what's known as birthright citizenship. He said that citizens with family here illegally may be deported. On the issue of pardons, he said that he will most likely pardon Capitol rioters on day one. And he also said that he will not fire the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. And lastly, as it relates to his nominees, Pete Hegseth, who is his nominee to lead the Pentagon, Donald Trump said that he believes he can be confirmed for that position.
Yeah, long conversation, well over an hour. We're talking with John Decker, White House correspondent, on the interview that Donald Trump gave to Kristen Welker yesterday. Discussed Ukraine as well, foreign affairs, mentioned that he's even had conversations with both Russia and China since becoming president.
Yeah, that's right. And he's, in addition to that, over the weekend when he was in Paris, he met with President Zelensky of Ukraine, also met with French President Emmanuel Macron. So he certainly is having many conversations, even before assuming office on January the 20th of just next month. That's going to be here before you know it, including, you may recall, just last week when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau traveled down to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally, face-to-face with President-elect Donald Trump.
Talking with John Decker, White House correspondent, on an over hour-long interview that Donald Trump gave over the weekend. So is the media optimistic about the access they're going to have towards Donald Trump? You're a member of the White House correspondents and the press operation there. This seemed like he was very accessible to Kristen Welker. What's your take?
Well, yeah, I am optimistic. Certainly, it can only get better in the sense that President Biden has not been that forthright in terms of doing press conferences, taking questions from us on a regular basis. That's what, having covered Donald Trump for the 4 years that he was in the White House, that's what we got used to. And I think that will continue once he's sworn into president. So, yeah, that is something that will be a big change in terms of what we've been accustomed to over the past 4 years.
We're going to continue to discuss all aspects of that interview. John Decker, White House correspondent, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on today. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was an hour and 16 minutes. And to John Decker's point, and I watched the entirety of it, it is freewheeling, free-ranging, even to the point where he starts to provide criticism and maybe some tips to Kristen Welker on how she can, settle down a little bit, not be so angry all the time towards Trump. It was fascinating. And to Decker's point, just in contrast to what the last 4 years have been like, they just go. It doesn't seem like there's any topics that are off, the record, things that couldn't be discussed. They dive into everything from the border to drugs to even healthcare. education, minimum wage, Ukraine. They cover the breadth of it. And in some cases, you see Donald Trump standing on the promises he made during the campaign. On others, willing to negotiate a little bit. And one thing I'd love to hear from our listeners is on Dreamers. At one point, he says he's willing to make a deal with Democrats with regards to Dreamers. Do you believe that Dreamers, these are kids that have been not born in this country, but brought to this country early on, maybe when they're 6 months old, 1 year old, that type of thing. So they're illegal immigrants, but they were just brought here at very young ages. Do they deserve to stay in the United States of America, or do they need to go back? This is the only country they've ever really known. Donald Trump saying he's willing to make a deal with Democrats, possibly. So is he hedging there a little bit? Do you want to see a deal done, or do they need to leave as well? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Bill, what do you think about the Dreamers?
Well, first of all, on the interview, I was astonished, but also impressed that he was able to avoid solidly answering a question for well over an hour. That was impressive. That was really good. The amount of obfuscation and distraction and just ignore that. It started at the beginning. The first question that she asked was about the border and the 100 days. And he didn't answer anything. No plan, no nothing. Wandered all over the place. It was quite impressive. And when he's pushing back on Kristen, that was, again, she should have pushed back a lot more. On the Dreamers, yeah, he's going to try and deport them. Absolutely. If he can't get anything from the Democrats. That is the misunderstanding that we outlined inside the Latino community. We've outlined this several times before the election, and we outlined it several times after the election. And Donald Trump was clear last night in that conversation. He views anybody who has come into this country illegally as a criminal. So when you talk about deporting all the criminals, he means all of them. He outlined that very, very clearly last night, even though he still continued the BS about the 13,000 people that were murderers that had come in. Kristen Welker tried to push back, and then he lied about it, and then she let him go ahead of the lie. So even though he was continuing to repeat absolutely false information, the one thing that I think has flown under the radar that no one has paid attention to, and I haven't heard anybody else discuss it, he outlined very, very clearly, if you came into this country illegally, he views you as a criminal, not violent, so you're not on the top of the list. But yes, you gots to go. I hope everyone's been paying attention. So what we said was going to happen, and said what he says is going to happen.
Do you think he's going to get to the point of Dreamers, though? Do you think when he works down his list, and they talked about it during the interview, they're going to start with the violent criminals, and they're going to work their way down? Do you think Dreamers are going to go?
I don't.
Do you think they should go?
Here's the thing is, whether or not I think they should or shouldn't go, I don't think he's going to get there, because what I continue to hear from him is a complete lack of a plan. And I've listened to the people that are in charge, and I still hear a very solid lack of a plan as far as the execution of this. I think some of the things they've talked about are kind of silly. I think that he has 1.5 million, maybe 2 million that are going to be easy to get out of the country. After that, it's going to be much more difficult. And remember, he's not just shooting at the 11 million that we think are here. He's used numbers of 22. So he's got to move 22 million out, 33 million, he said sometimes. So he's got to find all those extra millions of illegals that he said existed, that he's got to move those out. And let's see what happens. Based on his previous track record on things like, I don't know, building the wall, and the fact that he said he was going to deport all these people last time, I am skeptical. I am very, very skeptical.
Do you think he's more? I think he's more motivated this time around.
I don't think that matters. It has to do with execution. And can he put the right people in the right areas to make sure this goes forward? Even last night, I mean, you listened to him when he got into the healthcare. That was an entire mess. And the whole idea, I mean, just what he talked about, it was a complete mess.
I will give you that, because I don't think the government, I mean, I thought that was a picture perfect example of why healthcare should not fall under the central planning arm of the government. he really didn't know much about what he was talking about with regards to healthcare. And I don't think any politician really does. And what you get on the Democrat side is, we'll solve it all. Just give us the power.
But he said he fixed it.
And it was a perfect example of why that should not be in the hands of government officials.
But he said he was going to repeal it, and he didn't have a plan. But he said he had a plan, and then he got mad at John McCain for refusing the plan that he didn't have and voting thumbs down. And then he talked about the fact that he then went ahead and fixed it because it's what he had to do. He had to fix it. He didn't fix it. But then he says it sucks. So if he fixed it, why does it still suck? I mean, it was phenomenally stupid, but okay. I mean, just the thing is, I don't think that on the immigration side that he has an actual plan. I think this is much like
on immigration. You don't think he has an actual plan?
No, because I could
maybe give that to you on healthcare, but not immigration.
But again, how are the deportations going to be facilitated and executed? That's part of what we haven't heard. How are we going to decide who's going to be rounded up? How are we going to do that? Who is going to be responsible? Because chances are he can't use the military to do it. That's not something that's going to happen. You might be able to squeeze in National Guard, but you can't use the Army, the Marines. You can't use those guys. You can't. And in fact, Tom Homan has even admitted that. We haven't gotten to it, but a couple of weeks ago, Tom Homan outlined that. And if Homan's right about how he outlined this in a press release, then he might have something solid. He might be going after this the right way, but they can't use the U.S. military. But Trump's been talking about that because he talks about tough guys and going around, and they're the toughest guys going around and do this. They can't. It's not going to work. And Homan has admitted that the military is going to be involved in non-enforcement operations. So that's building and transport. That's what they're going to do. They're going to build facilities and they're going to transport people. That's what the military is going to do. So now we've got to figure out who is going to be rounding up these illegals. How are they going to be doing it? And then what's the process? And so far we have nothing. And that's what I'm worried about.
I don't know if you could say nothing, but I think that Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, those groups, those folks are, I mean, if there's one thing that this election had a mandate on besides deconstructing the deep state, it was illegal immigration. I mean, this was not a healthcare election. And that was the funny part of that interview, was to watch both of them, Kristen Welker and Donald Trump, talk about healthcare, because that just wasn't really on the table.
And I'm not
regards as to the motivating factors that got the electorate out. But immigration, deconstruction of the deep state, and I think where he's put Stephen Miller and Tom Homan and those folks into his administration clearly signals that they're going to wield a tremendous amount of power, and they're highly motivated to deport folks.
Yeah, but can they do it? That's the issue, is the execution. We had highly motivated people to do certain things in the last Trump administration. We had them in the current administration. Didn't accomplish bupkis. So I just want to see, do they have the ability? And understand why it feels good for the GOP to talk about a mandate for Trump. It's hardly a mandate. You can't look at numbers. You can't look at percentage of win. It's not a mandate. He did win, and it is remarkable, and it is historical. But mandate? Nah, not so much.
Yeah, I think you can. The issues that drove this election.
Yeah, but it's not a mandate.
The economy, the deep state, and illegal immigration. What's those three?
How do you define a mandate? Is it just because you won? If you win, do you have a mandate? But how do you define that? Because you and I may be using the word differently, and that's perfectly acceptable. We may be viewing it differently, because for mandate, to me, it comes with overwhelming support, an overwhelming show of support that says this is the direction we have to go. And I don't see an overwhelming show of support based on the numbers from the last election. Trump, based on his margin of win, is one of the smallest in history. He got less. He's got less of a space between he and Hillary, and less of a space between he and Biden. Both of them beat. There was less of a space between when he beat Hillary. His win this time was smaller. So that's a problem when you're talking about a mandate.
The polling around illegal immigration and mass deportations, I think we're over 60% during the election, that this was something that over 60% of Americans wanted to take place. Yeah. And from my perspective, that's a mandate. Yeah. We're not playing in the 20s, 30s, 40s. We're playing over 60%.
Yeah. The issue, though, that I would push back on that is that we get support in that areas for things like some reproductive care and abortion care. And that's 60. And we don't talk about that being a mandate. We don't talk about that being a mandate by Americans across the country. No. I don't.
I think the Democrats talk about that as a mandate all the time. In fact, they put so much of their weight in that.
No, they didn't come out and say it's a mandate, though. And that's the issue. And I understand why it works right now, because then it feels like, well, we have to do this because everybody tells us that we wanted this done. But I don't think the numbers can do it. However, I do think that the immigration thing is one of the top line issues. But how are they going to accomplish it? I still haven't seen anything as far as who is going to be rounded up. The easiest ones, again, are about the 1.52 million that you already have in custody or under deportation orders, because you have those and you know exactly where they are. That's the lowest hanging fruit possible. So that's easy. But I haven't heard anything beyond that when it becomes more difficult. I haven't heard anything about going into schools, anything about going into factories, anything about going into certain communities and going through apartment complexes and things like that, because that's where you're going to have to go. And that's how you're going to have to execute it. And so what's that going to look like? And again, they're not going to be able to do it probably with the guys wearing the uniforms of our U.S. military. So what does that look like? Yeah, I'm curious.
And I think you got some guys in that administration that are highly motivated to do it. I think that the election clearly sent a message that the American people want this, and you're going to see probably the biggest effort America has ever put forth towards deportation about to take place in the next 2 years.
I got a question for you.
But look, it's also the federal government, and you have Democrats that are going to sue every step of the way. So those could possibly stop things.
Got a question for you. When he talked about Pete Hegseth, and he was talking about he thinks Pete's still going to go solid and still going to get through.
A military guy. Every time I talk to him, he's a military guy.
Yeah. Was it weird that he mentioned he's a military guy and talked about his drinking and didn't talk about anything else? Is that weird? Because
I didn't catch that with regards to drinking, because Kristen Welker brought it up in the question, and his addressing of it was around, Pete has told folks he'll stop drinking while he's on the job. I think that's great.
However, the larger issue is the potential assault charges and other things that are involved with how he treated people. And that seems to be a larger issue. And that wasn't a concern that Trump brought up, nor is it something that Welker pointed to. That to me was strange. Especially it was strange when Donald Trump in his answer highlighted, well, he's a military guy. He's always talking about the military. I know 5-year-olds that do that. That's not necessarily an endorsement. But the idea is that he went to the drinking part and not anything else. I just thought that was interesting, just on based a visceral reaction on it was, for me, it was an insight into what Trump thinks is important as far as what he was defending, what he was choosing to defend, and things that he didn't think he had to defend. I just thought it was an interesting
I didn't see it on that side, because Kristen Welker was the one that brought it up, and he's addressing that question that came from Kristen Welker. But it's also what kind of X and social media and everybody was talking about in many ways, because it's just so like, really? That's the issue we're going to talk about? You don't have examples a lot, really, of him or at all on the job being drunk. You had a few allegations that popped up from unnamed Fox sources, but then everybody that's a Fox personality came out and said, well, I've known Pete. I've sat next to Pete. The idea that he's drunk on the set or anything like that.
Not everybody from Fox News came out. They have 10 current and former employees that have said so. It wasn't
universal.
And
are they named or unnamed?
Unnamed, because there would be blowback, and we've seen that before. That happens. Yeah, that happens. Come we talk about, we know that's blowback. We know that the White House reporter for Fox expressed an opinion that was opposed to the 2020 election being stolen on air, and Tucker Carlson behind the scenes demanded that she be fired immediately. So yes, we know that goes on. Yes. So in those type of situations, you don't make your name public. No, you don't. Not in that situation.
Well, I mean, you get a bit of a Brett Kavanaugh-esque operation going on here, where it's unnamed sources and ridiculous allegations and all the stuff. And
Watergate wasn't based on unnamed sources too. That's, it's not, it doesn't mean it is easy to discount stories because they're unnamed. That's an easy way to discount it. It doesn't mean it's wrong.
These press outlets that have railroaded conservatives for decades on unnamed sources to continue to do it. It's why nobody trusts these organizations
But the issue is, here's the thing. If those sources were made up, that's libel and defamation. You can take them to court. That's the issue. There are remedies. It's not that the press gets to go out there and just lie about you for whatever. There are remedies that are available. That if it's egregious enough, there are remedies. The thing for me about the Hegseth argument, for me, the thing that makes the worst or the best argument, and no one's going after it, is the fact that he has zero experience managing any sort of an organization near this size. That is shockingly stupid. If you ran a company that had 2 million employees and had a budget of 800 million, and your buddy said, hey, I've got this nephew of mine, and he does this, and he's never managed a budget even over 10 million, and he's never run an organization with more than 50 people, and 2 charities he's been involved with have somewhat been run into the ground, in part, allegedly, by his decision-making at the top. I don't think you look at your buddy and say, give me your nephew's resume. This guy never makes it to the top 25. He never makes it into the top 50 if you're trying to ask for applications for this. That's the real problem, is we're putting someone in a position.
I'm going to bring this back to the mandate.
Can't do it.
The idea that the American people want some company guy that has been in the program, worked his way up through the bureaucracy, not a chance. They want totally different. They want a guy like Pete Hegseth, who's going to take a sledgehammer to the DEI operations that are weakening our military and threatening our national security. And they want somebody that's going to put the troops and put America first. And Pete checks those boxes.
And Donald Trump received less than 50% of the votes from the electorate. That is not a mandate. You can't sit there and say the American people are demanding somebody outside the box. No,
absolutely. They want a guy outside the box. And Donald Trump won, and he has the right to be able to make those choices.
Not when Donald Trump got less than 50% of the votes from the electorate. That is not a mandate. That's not a demand by the American people. Donald Trump can go ahead and make whatever dumb decisions he wanted to. He can make whatever dumb decisions he wants. Doesn't mean that the Senate needs to confirm them. Doesn't mean that you'd want to put that person in charge just because they are outside of the system. That seems like a ridiculous idea. Again, you wouldn't go out and look for something where you had a 2 million employees and $800 million budget and say, I got to find somebody outside the system that doesn't ever run a company like this. Sure, that's going to work out well. Go for it. Go for it.
Bill, if you look at the current state of our military with regards to recruitment, operations, advancement within the military, it is such a disaster. It is falling apart. Somebody that's clearly going to clean it up that comes from outside the system is exactly what is needed. But I want to hear from folks. Give us a call. Gosh, wide-ranging interview. We'll still continue to talk some about this. Even federal minimum wage they got into. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. One of the aspects I thought was just a breath of fresh air was the fact that the president can actually sit down and have a conversation with media and take tough questions for well over an hour. To John Decker's point, White House correspondent, that hasn't taken place in at least 4 years. Give us a call. What'd you think of it? 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplos Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is vowing to make immediate changes when he takes office on January 20th, including mass deportations, FBI reform, and pardons for January 6ers. Trump detailing his plans in an interview on Meet the Press, where he also said the January 6th committee should all go to jail.
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail. We're not touching Social Security, other than we might make it more efficient, but the people are going to get what they're getting.
Okay, so the entitlements
and
off the table.
And we're not raising ages or any of that stuff. Okay. But what I say to them is, I love you, and we're going to all work together, and we're going to bring it together. And you know what's going to bring it together? Success.
Republicans, who now control the House, the Senate, and the White House, have plans for an ambitious 100-day agenda come January. Their to-do list includes extending tax breaks, cutting wasteful spending, securing the southern border, and rolling back President Joe Biden's green energy policies. On the top of that list is a plan to renew about $4 trillion in expiring tax cuts that were a signature achievement of Trump's first term as president. In preparation, Republicans in Congress have been meeting privately for months and with the president-elect to go over proposals to extend and enhance those tax breaks. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Donald Trump spending well over an hour with Kristen Welker from Meet the Press. Covered a whole lot of issues. We want to get your perspective. Let's go to the phone lines. Joe Arvada, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Hey, morning.
Hi, Billy, Jeff. I am really stoked. I thought it was great. I did not watch the entire interview. I should spend that hour. I can't get that hour back. But what I love though is the results. If this is what we can expect, this is fabulous, because Donald Trump, even though, I admit he was vague on some issues. I heard some of the sound bites. That is perfect, because what we're going to have is, just like Billy, we're going to have the left media mischaracterizing Donald Trump for 4 years. But in the results, wait till you see how many millions get the boot. Let me just tell you something. Donald Trump is a results guy, Billy. You can sit there and argue, oh, how's he going to get this done? How's he going to wave the magic wand? How's he going to do this? He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. But the American people are smart enough to look at the end result. And when you see the squeegee guys are missing, you will know Donald Trump gave him the boot.
I agree. He's a results guy. He starts an airline and it fails, starts a mortgage company and it fails, starts a state company, fails, starts a fraudulent university, fails. Yeah, results. Yep, absolutely. I would agree with you.
There's
results.
that mischaracterization perfectly exemplified.
No, those are all true statements. Yep.
Please.
Winning. Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, whatever.
How do you think he's going to do it, Joe? How do you think he's going to get the people out? What do you think?
Well, here's the first part of it is get the right people and kick out the old folks. When you're creating a new organization, the number one part of change is giving the boot to the idiots. And that's exactly what's going to start happening on January 20th.
So we're going to deport
idiots.
We're deporting Nana? The old people?
No, we're going to deport the morons that are running our government now.
Oh, I'm not sure that's legal, but that's a good.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of them are going to self-deport. Like I noticed, even Obama is missing in action, although he's claiming that the election was rigged. Anyway.
Joe, great call. I appreciate it. We got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
the people really are asking for this, Billy. So let's give them You Choose the News.
Yes, it's the way that we always start each and every Monday with some questionable decisions. This is what happens when we are left unsupervised, something we call You Choose the News. It's America's favorite fake radio news game show. I have spent moments this weekend scouring the interwebs to find really interesting stories about us humans, giving them even dumber headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why? It's a lot of fun. Nobody in charge has any idea that we waste valuable airtime doing something this frivolous. Yes, this is what happens when we are left unsupervised. Everybody take note. Also, shh, it's our little secret. Now, Blake Olson is joining us from the newsroom, and Jeff Hunt is traveling today, so he is on remote. And here's what our stories are this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, hey, what's wrong with your truck? Headline number 2, being neighborly. Headline number 3, cartels creating competition. And headline number 4, side hustle equals job security. Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
What's wrong with your truck?
Yeah, hey, what's wrong with your truck? Jacob Fetter, he's a Cybertruck owner in Miami, and he says, man, there's something wrong with my truck after I try to do truck things with it. Yes, he took his Cybertruck and tried to carry hay bales. It didn't work out so well. He said afterwards, the air compressor for the rear suspension has stopped working, and the rear end of his car is slowly drooping. Just like all of us have that slowly drooping when our metabolism fails right around 45. Look forward to that, my friend Jeff. So yes, there's going to be droopage you won't see coming. But this should not be happening with his Cybertruck. He decided to do a little bit of investigative work, figured out that, the truck bed, you can just pull it up. It's not really attached to anything, so he pulls it up, realizes that debris can fall down below the truck bed, and it got into the suspension and the air compressor. A bunch of hay prevented the air compressor from working. He's cleaned it out not once but twice, and it still doesn't work properly. He said this is a major design flaw because if you get something else in there, say, I don't know, water. Water and electricity don't mix very well. But if hay can get down there, so can water. And the problem is that Tesla says it's going to take them over 2 months to fix his car. And he said, I paid over $100,000 for my Cybertruck, and now it's going to take this long to get it fixed, and it's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars. And yeah, he said that his truck just doesn't truck anymore.
I can tell you, hay gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yes, it does.
It's
but
not surprising, but maybe Cybertrucks and ranches.
Yeah. Maybe your Cybertruck isn't a wrench truck. Just saying. Right. Maybe it's just to look cool when you're going to Whole Foods. Okay, now, Blake Olson, you in the newsroom, sir. Being neighborly, cartels creating competition, or side hustle equals job security?
Let's go with the cartels creating competition.
It sure looks like the cartels are creating competition, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. Researchers at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi, have detected fentanyl in bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf of Mexico. So it looks like they're expanding, the consumer base. They're not sure how it's getting in there. They have found it in 83 deceased dolphins and in 18 of 30 live dolphins that they have tested. They say that it is getting into their muscle tissue and their blubber. Possibly, they don't know. What they can't figure out is right now, they don't know how the fentanyl is getting into the dolphin systems. It could be something where they're ingesting it, or it could just be osmosis, which would mean if there's enough fentanyl in certain waterways, then they would naturally absorb it into their skin because their skin is semi-permeable. So that would happen. So one of the things is right in and around areas of Mexico and Mexico and Arkansas, there are some really, really bad levels. They found some in the Mississippi area where they were having shocking levels of fentanyl in the dolphin systems. So
there's a whole Batman movie where they're dumping stuff into the water systems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's how they created the thing. So yeah, okay. All righty. Final choice this morning, Jeff Hunt. Being neighborly or side hustle equals job security?
Side hustle.
Side hustle equals job security. You know, in Adair, Iowa, they've got a population of 794. So it was odd when the 3-person police department recently asked for 90 machine guns, including the purchase of an M134 Gatling-style minigun capable of dispersing 6,000 rounds of ammunition every minute. What in the hell is going on in the town of less than 800 people? Well, federal agents did some investigating and found out that the police chief was actually using his position to acquire the firearms, then sell them on the black market to the criminals. That's how the criminals were getting a hold of some of the machine guns and some of the deadly weapons you see them using. And when he was recently sentenced to 5 years in prison, Bradley proudly said on the stand, "If I'm guilty of this, then every cop in America is going to jail." They did a further investigation.
Really?
They have found 50 different instances of this happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yes.
All right.
All right. That's it. That's the end of You Choose the News.
Laura Thomas coming up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. It's Monday, December 9th. We're off and running. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, join the conversation, and let's get off and running. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Douglas County Commissioner Laura Thomas resigns, accusing fellow officials of harassment. Laura Thomas is going to be joining us to give us some insight. What is going on over there? And Doug Co., why'd she decide to leave early? You're not going to want to miss this conversation. We're going to get to Blake Olson in the news in just a second. Tony's on the line. Good morning, Tony. Happy Monday to you. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, morning. You should be there. Hello, Tony. Tony was there. Well,
Tony is so enamored by the conversation that took place between Kristen Welker
Yes.
and Donald Trump.
Well, we're going to have to go back later. No, well, we'll just go to news.
We'll check in with him a little bit later.
That stinks. Oh,
but
well.
on that point, though, this was something we haven't seen in 4 years. A very good friend of mine, smart guy, one of the top lawyers in Colorado, just said, you know, America's, and he's not a Donald Trump fan, but he's right about this, that America is better served when the media holds its elected officials accountable. And you really didn't see that for 4 years under Joe Biden. In fact, in many ways, they kind of hid and went along with the talking point that he's perfectly fine. He's great. He's doing backflips and solving public policy positions on his head. And now you actually have serious, in-depth public policy conversations between elected officials and media, and you saw that on Meet the Press, and so you should go watch it for 4 years.
When are the in-depth conversations between the media and the president?
That was an hour and 16 minutes of back and forth.
Wasn't in depth and probing. Kristen Welker sucked. She was awful. She was really, really, really bad. She was really, really bad. He turned around and he lied to her face several times. At one point, he says, "And you know that, right?" No, that's absolutely wrong. And she did not correct him. She corrected him on one thing. He corrected her back, and he was wrong. And she's like, nothing I can do here.
She was wrong. She was absolutely wrong on Aurora and the apartment complexes.
In what way?
She said that the Aurora apartment complexes weren't taken over by Venezuelan gangs.
Oh, sure. That's fine. But it seems more germane to the conversation of things like when Donald Trump says that 13,000 murderers came in the last 3 years under the Biden administration. That's factually not true, not accurate at all. And it's been proven. And it's not new. That was proven several weeks ago. But yet he continues to say that.
The response to that is that the time frame is bigger.
And
than
she did.
3 years.
Yeah. And she said, and she goes, no, that goes back, that goes back over a decade, et cetera. And goes, no, that's only under the Biden administration, only the last 3 years. That's what he said. That was his response. And she just let it go. She sucked. She was awful at it last night. So I would love to have any media personality holding someone like that accountable, but I just want to know when they're going to show up. Because so far they're not showing up. And again, I'm not defending how the press behaved with Biden. That was atrocious as well. But what I saw last night, was ridiculously bad. And there were things that Donald Trump repeated over and over again that he has done on the campaign trail that are not true. And she's just like, I don't hear anything. La, 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 la. If that is a probing, strong media interview, we're in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely, compared to what we've had over the last 4 years, it is a dramatic shift. It's better for the American people than having a media that's doing the bidding of the guy who can't even put a sentence together that's licking an ice cream cone.
Yeah, I know, because Fox News was all over that. They were all like, Biden's the best. Look at him. He chooses all the best ice cream. Yeah, we didn't have there was never.
Between the press secretary and Fox News, that was about the only actual media back and forth we had for the last 4 years. And now you have an actual president that's willing to sit down and go back and forth for an hour and 16 minutes where all the facts right, where all the things tied up.
There were no facts.
But the fact that we're at least there versus what we had before for the last 4 years, American people are going to be better served on this. But I want to get to Blake Olson and the news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. I agree with you, Jeff. Sorry, Billy. 27 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 37 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
President Biden has not been that forthright in terms of doing press conferences, taking questions from us on a regular basis. That's what, having covered Donald Trump for the 4 years that he was in the White House, that's what we got used to. And I think that will continue
NBC White House correspondent John Decker joining Jeff and Billy this morning. A real president returns to the White House in January, and Sunday with Kirsten Welker on NBC. DJT stopped short of saying Fauci, Schiff, and Liz Cheney will be thrown in the slammer, even though they should be, but reminded Welker who the deep staters are, like Cheney.
Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They testified. They said it was total. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it.
Yes, she was. Lie after lie after lie. The smear campaign on Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, may not be working. DJT discussed that with Welker.
Pete is doing well now. I mean, people were a little bit concerned. He's a young guy with a tremendous track record, actually. He went to Princeton and went to Harvard. He was a good student at both. But he loves the military, and I think people are starting to see it. So we'll be working on his nomination along with a lot of others.
Well, the city of Denver is opening additional cold weather shelters today as snow moves into the area. The Department of Housing Stability says the shelters will open at 1 o'clock today and will remain open until 11 Wednesday morning. President Biden is praising the regime change in Syria. The president's remarks come after a coalition of rebels captured the Syrian capital of Damascus, prompting President Bashar al-Assad to resign. And Biden called the collapse of Assad's government a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria. The manhunt continues this morning for further clues in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. NYPD dive crews were back in Central Park Sunday searching a pond. Police have yet to recover the gun used in last Wednesday's shooting in Manhattan, and they haven't identified the suspect either. The war of words continues between Jay-Z and Texas attorney Tony Busby. Busby represents a woman who claims to have been sexually assaulted by both the rap mogul and Sean Combs, Diddy, during a MTV Video Music Awards party. In a statement, Jay-Z denied the allegations, calling it a blackmail attempt, but Busby has now shot back. He says that his client never demanded a penny, and instead, she only sought a confidential mediation. And Busby, who practices in Houston, says that his client is emboldened and he is proud of her resolve. All-star outfielder Juan Soto making history. ESPN says Soto has agreed to a record 15-year, $765 million contract to join the Mets. The Mets, not even the Yankees. The deal makes the 26-year-old the highest-paid athlete in the history of professional sports. Hold your breath on that one. Don't hold your breath on that one. That'll change, I'm sure, soon. CU Buffs will play BYU in the Alamo Bowl on December 28th in San Antonio, and CSU will take on Miami of Ohio in the Snoop Dogg Gin and Juice Arizona Bowl. Also on the 28th, sending a great message to young people. Nice job. 23 in Castle Rock, 25 in Brighton, 27 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
A bit of a change in the weather for Denver in the Front Range. It's going to be a lot colder this week as daytime temperature readings are going to be only in the 30s today and probably only upper 30s tomorrow as a cold front sweeps through the region. For today, tonight, and early Tuesday, we may see a few snow flurries. Lows tonight upper teens to near 20. Lows tomorrow night, teens and lower 20s. Sunny, back to the 40s and 50s. Breezy, probably dry again for Wednesday and Thursday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
You gotta love Colorado weather. We go from really nice, warm weekends, literally the next day, to snow. I tweeted out earlier that Colorado weather is just an emotional teenager. It just bounces all around the place. You never really know what you're gonna get.
It is a little crazy. It's kind of crazy at times how cold, how warm was yesterday and how cold it's supposed to be today. And yeah, I need to wash the car. I'm a little pissed. Just saying.
You might want to wait a little bit.
Yes, I know. Mad. Okay, sorry. See, it's making me crazy right here. Norris Barkley. I'm getting crazy. Yeah. Having a dusty car makes me mad. Okay, sorry. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Not just grievance hour with Billy Thorpe.
So Douglas County Commissioner Laura Thomas resigns. This coming from our friends over at Colorado Politics, accusing fellow officials of harassment. Laura Thomas, who has served on the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners since 2016, announced Friday she is resigning, effective immediately. Thomas said she can no longer take the, quote, unrelenting attacks, harassment, and punishment from fellow commissioners Abe Layden and George Teal. Thomas, who is term limited, said she had planned to serve out the rest of her term, which would have ended on January 14th. I have lived in hell for 4 years, a sometimes tearful Thomas told reporters on Friday morning. The final straw, she said, was an order from the other two county commissioners to county staff to evict her from her office and turn it over to State Senator Kevin Van Winkle on Monday. Van Winkle was elected as commissioner last month. In a statement after the press conference, Layden and Teal said moving boxes and transitioning after a November election is normal. It's tragic that our censored colleague chose to repeatedly violate our policy manual and then host a press conference when the county was honoring the Kendrick Castillo family, they said. It is entirely normal and customary after a November election for boxes to move and transitions to begin. We are thankful for the peace, positivity, and collaboration that Commissioner-elect Kevin Van Winkle will bring to Douglas County. Joining us on the Jeff and Bill show is Laura Thomas, the now former Douglas County Commissioner. Laura, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, both of you. Thank you for allowing me to come on this morning.
Yeah, so give us your insight. What happened?
So when I say I've lived in hell for 4 years, that's absolutely what I have done. These two have, George Teal and Abe Layden, have censured me. They censured me because Layden and I directed the Cultural Council to spend excess revenues from the Scientific and Cultural District in Douglas County, and they refused to do that. I know that you get my weekly newsletter, Jeff, and in that weekly newsletter, I published a link to the county's website that listed the individuals on the Cultural Council. I think the public has a right to know who is spending their money and how. And because I did that action, I was censured. This just gives you a clue of what's going on with these two. They are wasting taxpayer money. And when I report it, they get upset, and they've been trying to censure me and silence me for 4 years.
Now, Laura Thomas, you're waking up Monday morning, no longer a county commissioner in Douglas County. The resignation took place and was effective immediately. How do you feel waking up this morning?
You know, I'm sad because I have been in public service my whole life. I was with the State Patrol for 26 years. I was the county coroner for 4 years, where I reduced the budget and rooted out the corruption. But I have slept better in the last 3 nights than I have in years. and my health was starting to deteriorate because of this constant onslaught of attacks. The commissioners have a policy manual, and Abe used that policy manual to bop me over the head with it over and over and over when he felt that I had violated it. But just think about how George Teal defamed Megan Silverthorne, who serves on our library board. He claimed that she was the focus of a criminal investigation and criminal charges would come soon. That was completely false. But did George get held to the same standard of that policy manual? No. But I assure you that Megan Silverthorne will.
Talking with Laura Thomas, she served as Douglas County Board of County Commissioners since 2006, announcing on Friday that she has resigned effective immediately. Now, your colleagues, Abe Layden and George Teal, said, look, this is part of the process of moving on. We want to start day one with Kevin Van Winkle. We were happy to give Laura Thomas an office right next door. Plus, we had some changes to make. She painted her office bright red. She installed new cabinets. And we need time to fix up the office so that Kevin Van Winkle can start day one with a fresh office. What's your response to them?
So day one is January 14th. And I had offered to move out of my office on January 6th. That would have given staff 8 days. And my office is not the Taj Mahal. It is a small office. And so 8 days would have been plenty time for staff to have gone in, moved out the furniture. Now, my furniture is not extravagant. It's a desk, a table, and cabinets. Staff could have moved those out, repainted the office, put new furniture in for Kevin in 8 days. There's a video online of how the Oval Office is changed between the time the outgoing president leaves the White House for inaugural events and the new president comes in. That's the most powerful office in the world. So if the Oval Office can be transformed in hours, I bet a county commissioner's office can be transformed in 8 days. And let me just say that this statement that it's customary for boxes to move, challenge them to give you any evidence, any examples when this has happened. It didn't happen for me. It didn't happen for Abe. It didn't happen for George. I contacted commissioners across the state when that statement came out, and nobody said, oh yeah, we do that all the time. In fact, in my weekly newsletter yesterday, there's a screenshot of a commissioner who said, he's full of crap. That never happens. You are the decision maker until January 14th. That's your office until January 14th. So challenge them to provide evidence to support their statement because they can't find it.
What is, and we're talking, by the way, with Laura Thomas. She served as Douglas County Board of County Commissioners since 2016, announced on Friday that she was resigning effective immediately. Why resign now? Why not finish your term?
Because on Wednesday afternoon last week, Teal and Layden ordered staff to be in my office this morning to move me out. I will not be humiliated that way. I'm a sitting county commissioner, and I won't do that to staff. Imagine staff having to go in and move my stuff out. That's just disrespectful to them as well. And this was the last straw after 4 years of this nonsense from these two. So here's the deal. Jeff, I either had to conform to their wasteful spending and not be transparent about it, or they were continuing to harass me, which they have done.
Talking to Laura Thomas, now a former county commissioner in Douglas County. So can you talk about your relationship with Kevin Van Winkle? How was that transition going on? Were you supportive of him? Was he supportive of you? Can you give us some insight there?
So I supported John Carson when he ran for my seat. John was the most qualified. I did not support Kevin. When I ran for House District 43, there was a mailer that came out from Bill Owens and George Teal and Kevin Van Winkle supporting an unemployed, unqualified candidate to run eventually against Robert Marshall. And of course, we all know how that worked out. All those Republicans got on board with this unemployed guy. and Robert Marshall won. So those guys helped keep a Democrat in House District 43.
So I'm guessing the relationship's not good between you and Kevin Van Winkle.
Well, I have to tell you that Kevin has been sitting in on meetings, and Kevin was online in the meeting on Wednesday of last week when George and Abe ordered that I be moved out. Kevin had a wonderful opportunity to be a leader and say, you know what, guys, let Commissioner Thomas stay in her office for 4 more weeks. I'll take the spare office because I'm not an elected official in Douglas County yet. I'm a state senator, not a county official. So let's do the right thing. Let's her stay in her office, and then she can move out on the 6th. Her office can be transformed into my office. But Kevin didn't stand up and take that leadership position.
So we're talking with Laura Thomas. She served as Douglas County Board of County Commissioners since 2016, has now announced her resignation effective immediately, roughly about a month before she was scheduled to be finishing her term anyways. So you've served in Douglas County, at least in this role, since 2016. You know the county well. Under George Teal, Abe Layden, and now Kevin Van Winkle, where do you expect the county to go?
Well, I would hope that citizens will be showing up at work sessions and business meetings to watch the spending that's going on. You know, the county's out of money. Let me back up. Last year, we gave $38 million in property tax relief. This year, we're down to $11 million because so much of that money has been spent. So there's $11 million left. Basically, there's no extra money to be spent. So citizens need to be watching what is going on. But I'm concerned about the transparency because when I brought transparency to government, I got the crap kicked out of me.
And Douglas County seems to be shifting a little bit. The mayor of Parker, now a Democrat, which was shocking to me that Parker would elect a Democrat as its mayor. Do you see, and then Highlands Ranch used to be kind of this conservative bastion. Do you see it as trending more progressive, more Democrat?
Well, let me just correct something. Josh Rivero is not a Democrat. Josh Rivero was a Republican until January 6th. And at that point, he became an unaffiliated voter. I've worked with Josh Rivero for years. He is very fiscally responsible. He will be a wonderful mayor for Parker. There's a strong leader at their helm. And so I just want to make sure people understand who Josh Rivero is.
I appreciate that.
And then you asked about Highlands Ranch. I did crunch the data for House District 43 because I truly wanted to take on Robert Marshall and take that seat back for the Republican column. Lauren Boebert did not win a single precinct of the 50 precincts in House District 43. Donald Trump only won 6 of those precincts. And of the 50 precincts, the unemployed, unqualified guy that was put in to run as the Republican against Marshall only won 15 of those 50 precincts. So some of this is about the quality of the candidate, but absolutely the demographics are changing. And I know that the Democrats focused on Lauren Boebert's race in Highlands Ranch, and I think their efforts were effective.
Talking to Laura Thomas, now former Douglas County Commissioner. What's your next steps?
My next step, Jeff, is that I'm going to rest. I no longer have to worry about saying a prayer in my office and then walking down the hall wondering what George and Abe were going to attack me with next. That went on for 4 years. Imagine, they spent $24,000 investigating me for a bunch of frivolous things, and I was cleared of all wrongdoing. So I am taking time to have some peace in my life.
Laura Thomas, we appreciate you taking time to give us your perspective on your resignation, what you're going to be doing next, the future of Douglas County, all of that. This is something to continue to watch. Now, Kevin Van Winkle will step in. I guess for the next month, that seat will just sit empty, right?
As I understand the vacancy rules, that the Republican Party needs to hold a vacancy meeting within 10 days. But I understand there might be a way the governor, I don't know why the Republicans would let the governor weigh in, but I think there might be a lot of things in flux as I've been listening to the narrative.
But regardless, come early January, Kevin Van Winkle will be the new county commissioner, right?
Yes, Kevin absolutely won the election. I hope that he steps up. I hope that he stands tall for the citizens and exposes when excess spending starts to come up.
Wow. Laura Thomas, thank you so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you guys being on, Jeff. I was sorry you guys left Highlands Ranch. I had plans for you guys politically. God bless you all.
Thank you. My wife served as a planning commissioner out in Douglas County for a little
nice.
bit, and that's how we got to know Laura and George and Abe. And
Oh.
as I've said, I don't get into the civil wars. I let people have their perspective. We invited Abe and George on. They're busy this morning. They did send us their statement, which isn't much different than what I read already in the Colorado Politics, going, look, this is part of the transition time. We asked her to move down the next door so that we could get the office ready for Kevin Van Winkle. But, gosh, there's been a lot of drama in Douglas County.
It's a lot. And again, I don't understand the issue with the office. And for me, it's, and I'm not saying on Laura's side, I'm saying on their side. I don't understand why at this point the office things need to be done. I don't, because
it seems personal.
It seems really personal, especially the excuses of, the paint and, we have cabinets on the wall. And I don't know, does Kevin want to keep the cabinets? Because maybe that's a question. Because if you pull the cabinets down and Kevin's like, I need cabinets, then you're just duplicating work. That seems phenomenally stupid. It also seems really untoward to be moving her out of her office weeks before someone new takes over. And again, I've never been elected to anything, nor should I be. But in the private workplace that I've been in, I've seen people have to move out of their offices and people moving in, but it doesn't happen a month before they are leaving the company. That doesn't happen. Even if you know who's taking over the position, they don't move them out a month beforehand, even 3 weeks beforehand. That is just something that does not happen. It's a very weird one. And the other part that I look at is the disruption to the workflow. If we are leading that office, I'm very curious why you would want to disrupt the workflow now and then do it a second time when Kevin has to move in, because you're going to have to move his stuff in and do things to the office. So why would you create two disruptions? Again, it seems personal. I have no other external information, but just based on what I'm seeing here, this seems personal and somewhat petty. I'll show you. I'm going to move you out of the office.
It seems very personal.
Yeah.
And gosh, on Laura's side, you just kind of hand the control over to him. You're now outside of the realm of influence.
Yeah.
You're a former county commissioner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had early on in my career, I ended up with an office from happenstance. I was supposed to share an office with someone. The other person decided they didn't want to share. They didn't want to be on that side of the building. So I ended up as a younger kid having an office in the building down this hallway. And, some of the other people complained about someone so young in the totem pole having an office. They didn't like that. And so then about 2 months later, it was yanked from me. Okay, fine. Don't care. And again, these people are just petty. They were being petty and they were being angry about it. And I think they were surprised that I'm like, nah, okay, don't care. That it was no big deal to me. I had no clue. It did not matter to me at all. The fact that whether or not I was in the cube farm or whether or not I was in the office did not matter. I don't care. They think it was something, but I don't care.
Bill, to your point, I think one of the most valuable things I learned young was the ability to work at a coffee shop.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like and being a campaign guy, you never set up an office.
Yeah.
Because campaigns last like 3 weeks.
Sometimes. So why would you? So even the longer ones are only months at a time. So why would you even? Yeah. Why would you even bother?
So you sit at a desk, you do all your work on the laptop. You have a phone, you get your work done. Having nice offices with, fancy things up on the walls and all that. That was never really my thing.
No, mine either. That was never my thing. So, yeah, that was one of those things. I'm curious, though, these internal machinations, and it does seem like they're trying to prove a point. Again, we only have one side of the story from Laura at this point, and we'll try to reach everybody else involved. But so far, it does seem that this is a little personal.
And it's an open line. George and Teal just said, George and Abe just said that they're busy this morning, but this is their their critique that she's made several changes over the years. She mounted wall cabinets that need to be removed. All these changes were within her rights as a commissioner, but it'll just take time to redeem and repair to reset the office for Commissioner Van Winkle. So the plan was to have Commissioner Thomas move into the office due to the to be vacated next door. She would be fully accommodated with senior county staff with an easy access. But again,
I disagree. I bet if she's talking about it being a small office, I bet if we started on a Friday and we worked through the weekend, the office would be ready by the Monday, because I have painted a red room before. I understand the coats of paint that it takes, but I understand the time frame. Also, taking cabinets off a wall, please. Seriously, that is maybe 20 minutes. Come on. How big are these cabinets? How wide are they? Please, come on. And the idea that the extra storage might not be needed by the other person, okay, that's fine. They may need it, but are we putting other cabinets up? What else are we doing? If not, what are we doing? We're putting spackle over the top and we're painting over the top of them. That's it. Even if we have lag bolts that are sticking into the wall, that's okay. That's a little bit of drywall. That's a little drywall paste. That's not a problem. That can be done too. Again, I could yank those things off the wall and I could have that thing sealed up in 2 hours. That's not that big of a deal.
Have you ever been in a relationship, though, with a coworker where it's so toxic that you almost feel justified using these like little procedural moves to attack them? Because I've never really been that way, and I'm guessing that in this case, these two, Abe and George, feel like the relationship is so broken and so public and just at a place of vitriol that you're just twist the knife.
I've had 2 instances over my employment career where I've had people that we didn't get along at all. One of which, if I mentioned their name on the air, you would immediately recognize them. They disliked me on a level that I really never understood, and made it their mission to make things incredibly difficult and incredibly personal, and made it as hard as I could to operate in my position. And I eventually left that position within the company and went to a different one. Now, I know where the genesis of that happened. It's because one morning I looked at this individual and said, you get to make a lot of choices with relationship to this production. This is not one of them. This is what we're doing now. They disliked that tremendously and didn't think that I should be able to make that decision. So from then on, everything they could do to submarine me and complain was open for business. So yes, I have experienced that. And I just transitioned to another part of, the other part of the company. And that's okay. That was perfect. I didn't feel like I had to be petty or anything else, because I knew the work that I was doing was solid, and that wasn't going to happen. So all I knew is they just looked sad and angry because of it. And I'm okay with you doing that. Yeah, that's fine.
Text messages coming in. I wish elected officials would repair the roads as much as they focus on what their offices look like.
It's a good point. It really was. They were so concerned about all the potholes more than what color the paint was.
There. Look, is Laura Thomas right? Is this about corrupt elected officials that are ruining the county, now enacting personal vendettas, making her life a living hell? And so she's got to go. And this is her final statement out the door. This is her last moment to get the press attention. And she's done. Is Laura right? Or Abe and George right that, look, we're transitioning the office. This has been a broken relationship. We're preparing for the next chapter. Laura had a workspace, but we're done with her and we're ready to move on. Plus, part of the message they sent me was Friday was the time that they were dedicating the road to Kendra Castillo. And Laura was not at that event. She was hosting a press conference at the same time. And so she's in the wrong. Or you have the mindset that you just don't like the drama. You want to see Douglas County focus on results. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Referring to Laura Thomas's coworkers, 7579 writes, interpersonal difficulties end up showing what kind of person you are. There's never an excuse to just make something hard for somebody, to be unprofessional, and to twist the knife, as you put it. That just shows a pettiness that is really concerning in an official capacity. 7579 writing. Wow. All right. Would love to hear from you. Give us a call. Text the studio. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Just wrapped up a conversation with Laura Thomas, who resigned her position as Douglas County Commissioner on Friday. Text messages coming in on this one. Unfortunately, this decision and the treatment she's received based on her statements put another stain on our amazing county. I know the timing of her resignation wasn't the best decision, with Kendrick being honored and remembered, but the airing of our dirty laundry is opening the door for a Democrat win soon. We already lost one seat in Parker. That's why I thought maybe Joshua Rivera was a Democrat, because I knew Jeff Troberg was a Republican. He lost, but I guess an unaffiliated. So Parker is going more moderate. So I pray we can heal from this and focus on governance, regardless of what a person thinks of Laura. She was an excellent representative from a governing standpoint. That from 7,800. Let's go to the phone lines. We got Barney. Good morning, Barney. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning. Happy Monday.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Billy. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You have a good weekend?
Good. You did?
Excellent.
I didn't. But let's get.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, but tell us what's on your mind, man.
The most important thing is, first off, let's talk about Kendrick and why wasn't the whole county there for that? Let's see. We have Kendrick, and we compare Kendrick to the Uvalde Police Department. The kid was tough. He was the only reason those kids were saved, because of his size.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you're not there, Laura. And Laura, just so you know, nobody cares. I know that you did this probably to like stand out. Jeff, I'm sorry, she's your buddy. But Abel and George, you guys are probably a bunch of petty little butt clowns too. I don't know where. I know that county commissioners do a lot more than we know that they do. I thought it used to be they just did road and bridges, but they do a lot more. But this just looks really petty. It just really is. And why the whole county wouldn't show up for Kendrick's road is beyond me. I didn't know about it. I mean, I haven't heard anything about that kid in a long time, but I don't know. There's not, all of us think that we know what we would do if somebody pulled a gun and we're there, but we really don't know. And that kid stood up, man, and
dude,
he was
Barney,
awesome.
Barney, I got to tell you, man, that is
Barney,
exactly that is exactly right, man. I appreciate you shouting out Kendrick, because again, it's someone, especially at his age and where he was in life, and the decision that he made showed that he had a lot more stones than many of us. And he made a decision that he was going to protect and save his classmates. And yeah, he deserves it. I didn't hear anything about the dedication. I knew the road was coming up. I didn't hear anything about the dedication as well. And I think you got a point there that maybe there wasn't enough publicity about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Uvalde. Look, you have Jefferson County. Sheriff Stone with Columbine. Really? The Denver SWAT guys say, let's go. And you say no? I don't know what kind of man does that. I really don't. But Kendrick was a man of all men, and I don't care how old he was. What a stud. And you know what? Those kids are all alive today. I'm pretty sure the way it went down, he pounced on the guy, and then, of course, he was shot, and then one of the other kids got the gun away or something. I don't remember. But Kendrick was the one that was the number one reason those kids.
Yeah, amen. You're right.
Sorry, I can't beat up on you again today, Billy. But
it's okay. I do appreciate you beating up on somebody else. It's always fun to hear, my friend.
You're gonna have to have coffee with your buddies. You just got to tell them, hey, nobody cares. You guys, you county commissioners. By the way, Laura started out with talking about something cultural money for, and you're talking about wasting money. Laura, I got news for you. If there's culture in whatever program, that's a waste of money. Anyway, just saying. Don't have to agree with that, but give me a break. Love you guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Billy,
Barney. Have a great day.
Appreciate the call.
That was good.
Yeah. So this was Friday, and we've got to figure out how to get on these like press release, web email things, because we just, remembering Kendrick's way every day. This comes from Douglas County press release. Castillo family and friends celebrate the formal name change of Lucent Boulevard in Highlands Ranch to Kendrick Castillo Way.
Oh, and I love that. And I love that too, because
you may know the name Kendrick Castillo and remember his sacrifice. The high school senior lost his life to save fellow students amid a school shooting on May 7th in an act of heroism that has helped shape the community. This happened back in 2019. Now, a reminder of the young man who brimmed with integrity, compassion, Courage and Honor is a permanent fixture in Highlands Ranch with the formal renaming of Lucent Boulevard to Kendrick Castillo Way. By the way, Lucent the company's not even there anymore.
Oh,
so
don't even bring that up. Start rubbing salt in the wound. Don't even bring that crap up. Sorry.
Exactly why that
my wife was
road should have
employed.
been changed.
Oh, yeah,
much
should have.
better.
My wife was employed by Lucent years and years and years ago. And she was among the last group of firings before they turned the lights out. That was an awful tragedy as far as a company that started out doing so well. But I'll tell you, the one shout out I will have for Lucent, wow, those healthcare benefits. Oh man, wow, that damn. Well, we haven't had healthcare like that since. Oh my God, their plan was amazing. But other than that,
might be why they're not there anymore.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. But they got a road named after them. It was dumb. Okay, sorry.
And I do want to say this: John and Maria Castillo are literally some of the best people I've ever met in my entire life. They are fantastic. And a testimony to them is Kendrick.
Yeah.
Who gave his life for his friends.
And what I'm always struck with when we talk to the Castillos is, in many ways, there are times in which they haven't, it's not moved on, but they're okay with where they are. But there are moments throughout the year in which the wound is opened again. And it's not on purpose or anything else, but there are those moments, and they're very honest about how deep that loss still resonates with them, and how, it can just be a regular day, and all of a sudden something will happen. They'll hear a song, something goes on, and it's as if he's gone again. It's, I feel for them all the time.
We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Ohio in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The Biden-Harris administration has announced that they are giving another $1 billion in taxpayer-funded military assistance to Ukraine. This as Biden rushes to give as much money as possible to Ukraine before President Donald Trump takes office on January 20th. The latest package will include more drones and munitions for rocket systems that the U.S. has provided. While these weapons are said to be needed right now, they will be funded through a program that pays for longer-term systems to be put on contract, meaning the weapon systems purchased are intended to support Ukraine's future military capabilities, not make an immediate difference on the battlefield. Last month, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, quote, President Biden has committed to making sure that every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door between now and January 20th. President Donald Trump is pushing Russian leader Vladimir Putin to act to reach an immediate ceasefire with Ukraine. Trump describes it as part of his active efforts as president-elect to end the war. He also said he would be open to reducing military aid to Ukraine and pulling the United States out of NATO. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says any deal would have to pave the way to a lasting peace. The Kremlin's spokesman said Moscow is open to talks with Ukraine. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
Wow, getting a lot of text messages on the Laura Thomas issue. Here's a screenshot of some of the conversations that's taking place online. Best day ever, knowing that Laura Thomas is not our commissioner. Such a disgrace to our county and individual neighborhoods. Another one just saying, this one from Michael Cook, just have to say, as someone who has been there, this is not the normal and customary transition process. As an incoming commissioner, I did not move a single box in until my predecessor had been graced with the time to fully move out. The person I was to replace was elected to serve her term, and I respected that process and allowed her to do so. That seems like the right way to do it, right?
Yeah, it really does.
Like, you can start your job on day one, but you don't have to have everything on the walls. You don't have to have your bookshelves full. You can still start working in an empty office.
And I don't think very few have ever known anybody that has moved into an office that has had it ready on day one. You know, everything's set. I can't think of a single person I've ever run across that had the office ready day one. Nor can I think of a single time in which they started prepping the office 4 weeks beforehand. I can't think of a time. But again,
I can't either.
Yeah.
And, you know, all you really need to do is have access to your email, right? Everything else can come later.
That's about it.
But,
bathroom and email.
and the coffee.
Oh, yes, the coffee. Yes.
Down the hall. All right. Billy and I are going to get into Syria. Does the United States have a role in this? You're not going to miss this conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, December 9th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Let's get to work. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So let's kick it off. Phone lines are open. We're going to talk Syria. Here's the number to call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Here's DJ Chi on Syria, posting on Truth Social, Assad is gone. He's fled his country. His protector, Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, was not interested in protecting him any longer. There was no reason for Russia to be there in the first place. They lost all interest in Syria because of Ukraine, where close to 600,000 Russian soldiers lay wounded or dead in a war that should have never have started and could go on forever. Russia and Iran are in a weakened state right now, one because of Ukraine and a bad economy, the other because of Israel and its fighting success. Likewise, Zelensky in Ukraine would like to make a deal and stop the madness. They have ridiculously lost 400,000 soldiers and many more civilians. There should be an immediate ceasefire and negotiations should begin. Too many lives are being so needlessly wasted. Too many families destroyed. And if it keeps going, it can turn into something much bigger and far worse. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is waiting. So he takes that to talk about Ukraine, which I guess they're all connected. But should the United States be sending money there to Syria? Engaging, trying to keep the peace now that Assad is gone. Would love to hear from you. I'm going to hear from Billy in just a second. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 28 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 37 on this Monday. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
I say I've lived in hell for 4 years. That's absolutely what I have done.
What's going on in Douglas County? Friday, County Commissioner Laura Thomas resigned early because of, Thomas says, well, Abe Layden and George Teal.
These two have, George Teal and Abe Layden, have censured me. They censured me because Layden and I directed the Cultural Council to spend excess revenues from the Scientific and Cultural District in Douglas County, and they refused to do that. I published a link to the county's website that listed the individuals on the Cultural Council. I think the public has a right to know who is spending their money and how. And because I did that action, I was censured.
And she was asked to move her office to another office a month before she actually leaves, and that didn't help matters. And she also said because she's been in public service her entire life with the State Patrol for 26 years and the county coroner for 4 years, it's a sad day for her. But she's sleeping much better, says her health has deteriorated because of their attacks. Layden and Teal say that they were transitioning the office and both unable to be on with the fellas this morning. I'm sure we will hear from them in the days to come. Lara Trump is stepping down as co-chair of the Republican National Committee. She's reportedly being considered to replace Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who DJT tapped for Secretary of State. Rubio's term ends in 2026. DJT on with NBC's Kirsten Welker on Sunday, and you can't go low enough into the sewer to describe Liz Cheney and the truth about her. But 47 tried.
Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait, they deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They testified. They said it was total. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it.
But he stopped short of saying that he'll try to throw them in the slammer where they belong. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is no longer in power and has fled the country after rebels seized the capital of Damascus over the weekend. Authorities in New York are still on the hunt for the suspect in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Police have yet to recover the gun used in last Wednesday's shooting in Manhattan, and they haven't identified the suspect. A backpack linked to the shooter was found on Friday and is currently being analyzed at a lab in Queens. Deliberations are resuming today in the deadly subway chokehold trial of Daniel Penny. The jury only has a charge of criminally negligent homicide left to consider after Manhattan Supreme Court Judge Maxwell Wiley dismissed the top charge of manslaughter on Friday. City of Denver is opening additional cold weather shelters today as snow moves into the area. The Department of Housing Stability says the shelters will open at 1 o'clock today and remain open until 11 Monday, make that Wednesday morning. CU Buffs will play BYU in the Alamo Bowl on December 28th in San Antonio. CSU will take on Miami of Ohio in the Arizona Bowl, brought to you by Snoop Dogg, also on the 28th. And the first ever 12-team college football bracket was revealed. The first round of the college football playoff begins on December 20th with Notre Dame playing host to Indiana. Wow, that one's going to be awesome. Just miles apart from each other. On December 21st, it'll be SMU at Penn State, Clemson at Texas, and Tennessee at Ohio State. Transfer portal in college football opens up today. It's 24 in Littleton, 26 in Glendale, 28 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on this Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A bit of a change in the weather for Denver in the Front Range. It's going to be a lot colder this week as daytime temperature readings are going to be only in the 30s today and probably only upper 30s tomorrow as a cold front sweeps through the region. For today, tonight, and early Tuesday, we may see a few snow flurries. Lows tonight, upper teens to near 20. Lows tomorrow night, teens and lower 20s. Sunny, back to the 40s and 50s. Breezy, probably dry again for Wednesday and Thursday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, the Assad family, CNN is reporting, has lost control of Syria after more than 50 years of brutal dictatorship. In the face of an astonishingly swift rebel offensive, President Bashar al-Assad and his family fled to Moscow and were granted political asylum, an official source in Russia told CNN. The leader of the main rebel group, Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, called the toppling of Assad a, quote, victory for the entire Islamic nation, unquote. Great. In his first public remarks in Damascus, the rebels led by Jolani's HTS group, which was formed out of an al-Qaeda affiliate, have said minorities will be protected. Yeah, right. U.S. President Joe Biden welcomed the fall of the Assad regime. He described it as a historic opportunity for a long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future, but cautioned that it was also a moment of risk and uncertainty in the region. As the White House focuses on next steps in Syria, U.S. Central Command said the U.S. military struck more than 75 ISIS targets in the country to prevent the terrorist group from taking advantage of the situation there. Bill, this reminds me a lot of the Muammar Gaddafi stuff that took place in Libya, where you go, or remember Egypt? Remember the spring, the Arab Spring, and all that happened, and no great democracies popped up after that.
Yeah, no, and there are lots of reasons, I think, for why democracy didn't take hold in different places. Based on Arab Spring, this one is going to be complicated inside of Syria because this rebel group is backed by Turkey, and so they're just a different flavor of an Islamist rebel group. It's different. It's vanilla instead of chocolate. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that their goals are necessarily anything different. They just think that Assad and his people were approaching it incorrectly. They are not going to be friends of ours. They're not going to be allies of ours.
Nope.
And based on what we see inside of Turkey, they're going to be authoritarian to the extreme. And I think this is a kind of a warning because Turkey, over the course of the last decade or so, a little bit more probably if we go back 15, 16 years, has been a very slow slide from a Muslim democracy into Muslim authoritarianism. Years ago, they were held out as an example of the Muslim world embracing a democracy, somewhat secular, even not totally, but they're always going to be. Yeah, and then Erdogan is the guy, and he comes in and turns it very, very authoritarian. And oddly enough, there are even people in our country who believe that his approach to governance is the best idea. They disagree with him based on the religious book he's using, but they think that it is a really good idea as far as how he's structuring the government. So this is going to be a really, really weird play. The problem that we're going to run into is this new rebel group is going to have to set up not only being, the government, but then executing all the little tiny things the government is expected to do, while also trying to manage corruption, because you now have your hands on things you never dreamed of. And what are you going to do with them? And how are you going to raise money? And it's very appealing to sell weapons or anything else to other rebel groups in order to raise money for your new government, and to help those rebel groups you're sympathetic with in order to exert maximum pressure and damage against the people you dislike. So the idea that some of Syria's weapon systems could get loose is very, very real. And I think that is the biggest problem that we're facing right now. This could get really scary as far as what's
Do
there.
these Muslim countries have to be run by strong-armed, dictators at the top? I'm thinking back to Iraq, and even Afghanistan. Now you have the Taliban, but here comes America. We're going to take out these bad guys at the top and usher in democracy and peace and hope, and little girls are going to go to school and all that stuff. And then they just become barbaric disasters that we have to pour a ton of money into in order to help them. And then the minute we leave, they just go right back to it. In many ways, Saddam Hussein kept a lot of these bad guys at bay because he would just kill them. He was a murderous guy at the very top. Muammar Gaddafi, Assad. Now, we try to kind of clear out these bad guys, and lo and behold, you either end up with tribal chaos or just a new bad guy at the top.
I think there are several layers. One, it's not understanding the cultural system and traditions inside of the country. Two, I think that what we can point to universally is, regardless of religious affiliation, when you put people at the top of the totem pole, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That there are litany of examples of people that have led that type of lifestyle and have turned towards violence and suppression of, the opposition. And we don't even have to go that far. If you're talking about people that follow our Lord and Savior, we can just run through all of Europe most of the time when they were looking at kings and monarchies. That was their system of government, but that wasn't necessarily tied, even though they would pay lip service to the church. It wasn't tied to anything that was connected to the teachings of Jesus Christ. And even then, let alone the Old Testament many times. So I think that's part of it, is that people use that as a lever.
But where's an example? Where's an example of a Muslim democracy? Like in history?
Well, Turkey would be one up until Erdogan. That's the most contemporary one. And I imagine, again, I'm not a history person like some other people are, and so I'm sure we can go back. But I disagree with the idea that the Muslims can't rule themselves based on either democracy or having any sort of a
really. You think they can?
Yeah,
you think
absolutely.
they could build a democracy that respects human rights?
Yeah,
without a dictator at the top?
Yeah, I do.
I just haven't seen it. Like, I'm asking for examples.
I don't know that. I'm not the history person. This is not my bailiwick to go back this. But yeah, I don't see anything that would prevent them, because we have the Muslim religion.
You don't think Islam by its own nature would prevent it?
No, I don't see why. And again, but Christianity by its own nature prevent it? It would be the same argument theoretically.
Really?
Yeah. Why not?
I think Judaism and Christianity, which were pivotal to the creation of Western civilization, have gone on to create the most successful countries in world history.
But early on, it was the Muslim countries that brought many things in the Enlightenment, math and science and all of that were early on in Muslim countries. So the idea that the religion prevents modern innovation, that prevents exploration, no. I think it has more to do sometimes with the system being set up. And again, we talk about the U.S. being one of the most successful countries and societies on the planet, and we are technically secular in our approach to religion. We don't have.
No.
Well, hang on a sec. We always talk about the separation of church and state. We are not a theocracy. We are not allowing religious leaders to dictate the governance of America.
Right.
So that's different.
Right.
So you can't say that the U.S. set up by the Christian church is a phenomenal success, because the Christian church does not run
the entire culture.
US.
The entire culture is bathed in the Judeo-Christian worldview.
The church.
So yeah, we may not have church leaders that are appointing political leaders, but absolutely the foundation of this country was based upon Judeo-Christian principles.
The church didn't set up, nor does it run the country. So that's where you get into that, the idea of saying that one religion is better than another's as far as ruling.
But my question is, can Islam do that? Can Islam create that distinction?
Yeah. I don't see why not. I'd have to go back again. I am not a history person, but I don't see why not. I don't see why that can't be accomplished. And we do have, at least in Turkey, recent example, but then they bent towards authoritarianism. And reasonable democracies over the course of history have bent towards authoritarianism. We can easily point to Italy. We can point to Germany. There are other examples as well. And there is an argument to be made that the U.S. also makes that bend through the course of history at times. Yes, that's okay. That happens. Yes.
So here's another question I have for you all. What's the U.S.'s role in Syria moving forward? One of the clear messages from my perspective is Russia's not going to be there when you really need them. I guess to escape to, but when you're trying to defend the 50-year reign you've had in your country, to Donald Trump's point, Russia just kind of gave up on Assad. And Russia's interest, from my understanding, reading all this, was around ports and military access to the land that Syria was on, but just felt like it could possibly still have this access. It has a 40-year lease on a port that's really important to Russia. And I guess from what the Wall Street Journal was reporting was that the new rulers of Syria were happy to give Russia that same access. And so Russia was like, well, we're kind of done with Assad. So maybe not the best bedfellows to be in with Russia, Iran, China at this point. They all seem to be struggling in many ways.
Just doing a brief search, you were looking at Muslim countries. Turkey does pop up there. Gambia, Bosnia, Morocco, Senegal, Bangladesh, Albania, Indonesia, Malaysia would all contemporaneously.
It's good with human rights.
They would score
Bosnia?
well as far as on the democracy index and other such things. Higher than probably Turkey would at this point. Yeah.
Wow.
Just saying. Yeah.
All right. Well, to my question, what do you think about, Bill, the relying on Russia and Iran at this point? Is that network clearly failing?
Yeah, because they're distracted necessarily because of what Iran and Russia is doing and where Russia's involved in Ukraine. But you could also, in some ways, make the same argument about the U.S. and NATO not necessarily supporting Ukraine, because we could make this argument that now that Trump is in charge, the U.S. is now looking to settle and bring an end to the fighting and give up portions of Ukraine to Russia. That doesn't seem like you are defending your gallant ally at that point, who you're guaranteeing they're going to lose territory. Where I'm certain that if we were involved in a conflict with Mexico or another country, and a third country came in and says, well, you're going to have to understand, you're not getting Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi back. You're just going to have to give it up. We probably would look at that a little differently. And so the idea of the support, I think, is different. But again, Russia and Iran's relationships are mostly utilitarian, and was utilitarian inside of Syria, especially with Russia. So this absolutely should have been expected by Assad, that when they needed them as far as military-wise, Russia didn't have anything, but that's partly because of what has happened to them in Ukraine. Their military is decimated, so they don't have the ability to help out. And Iran just likes to play with the terrorism side of things. They don't want to get their hands dirty in actual
and they've gotten
battles.
Spanked by Israel recently. Yeah. They're not answering any pagers.
No, they're not.
Or carrying with them. And that one bomb that was placed for 2 years before it blew up and killed someone deep inside Iran. I think they're a mess. This was an example of Russia losing big time on the national stage. Ukraine not going great for Russia, not going great for Ukraine either. But Russia's not a good ally to be partnered with, and Assad had learned that the hard way over the weekend. So, I think that world order of Russia, China, Ukraine, or Russia, China, Syria, Iran, not going great right now.
No, not necessarily. And Russia has its own issues, right? It's going to be China as the leader. I mean, Russia is dependent on China right now.
Pulling in North Korean troops at this point to fight in Ukraine. Russia is.
Yeah, the one thing,
like, really, those are the guys.
Yeah, coming out of this, the most difficult thing for Putin coming out of the Ukraine war is understanding that he is now the number 2 dog behind China, and China has a hold of Russia's leash. That is going to be difficult for Putin to swallow, but that's what he's gotten himself into based on the situation. And him, bringing Assad in does help him and say, see, look, I'm still an international player. But yeah, at the bottom of the list, he's second fiddle now to China. China is
I
is that
you're
major
right
world
on
power, and that's a problem.
Breadman texting in, we got to protect the Christians in Syria. That needs to be our role. Look, if you're a Christian in Syria, you got to get the hell out of there. I mean, these areas, like what's happened in Afghanistan and Iraq, there used to be a kind of a vibrant Christian community in Iraq. And that's why I bring up, you have these strong men like Saddam Hussein, terrible, horrible human rights abuser. But at the same time, he was able to kind of keep some of the more extreme Islamic groups at bay. And then when he was gone, you had the decimation of Christians out of Iraq. There's just literally none left. If you're a Christian in Syria at this point, you get out. But what do you think the United States role should be in all this? Do you just let these countries, maybe we'll hit them with some targeted bombs every once in a while, but if the people of Syria want a dominant Islamic state where human rights are abused constantly, little girls aren't going to school, and maybe it becomes this training ground for other terrorists, that's the one thing where I have pause on this, because we learned with Afghanistan that if you just let these countries fester, eventually it ends up on our soil. You can't just, wall it off and let it become a hellhole, which it will, and not expect it to affect America. But at the same time, I'm not sending our sons and daughters to go die on these foreign wars that have no actual benefit for us other than they might prevent an attack later.
I'm interested to see what do you mean by letting Afghanistan fester? What do you mean by that? And then it coming to our shores?
Yeah. So, right, with 9/11, right, we kind of had a hands-off approach. We tried to attack Al Qaeda where we could, but
See, for me,
Afghanistan gave Al Qaeda like the ability to build its systems, plan its attacks, and then we ended up with 3,000 innocent Americans that died.
Now, see, for me, that's Saudi Arabia. 9/11 is tied to Saudi Arabia. Absolutely. That's where they came from. How
would you hold Saudi Arabia accountable?
There's the problem. Yes, there's the problem with our international entanglements. That's the problem, is we knew how Saudi Arabia was tied into 9/11. We knew the support they gave to Al Qaeda and the support they gave to the people that eventually flew the planes into the buildings. We were well aware of that. We know they took Jamal Khashoggi and chopped him up into little pieces. We don't do anything because they are our, quote, gallant ally. We don't care. So that's part of the entanglement is I think part of where the U.S. has hurt itself is we seem to pick and choose who we're really mad at, and we ignore bad behavior that we would view as punishable by other countries. And so that erodes our standing on the international stage because people see that we do talk out of both sides of our mouths. And that's an example. And yes, Afghanistan was part of it, but the real leverage inside of 9/11 was Saudi Arabia, from everything that I've read. And what did we do on September 11th? We grabbed the royal family members from Saudi Arabia, and while no other planes were in the air, we flew them home. While everybody else in America was grounded, we took the Saudi Arabians and flew them home. And if you think that I am wrong about our ties to Saudi Arabia and our ties and their ties to 9/11, ask yourself why they had to go home. Why? On that day, was it so important to move them out? If they weren't tied to the attacks, you don't move them out. It's that simple. That's why they had to go. Yeah, that's part of it.
Phone calls starting to come in. You can join the conversation. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. I don't know if I've heard an answer, though. What do you expect the United States to do with Syria now? Do we just wall it off and hope it doesn't affect us?
Oh, now my answer is we monitor to make sure they're not selling weapon systems to terrorist groups or other bad actors. That would be our role. Other than that, for me, it's your house. Paint it how you want. I think they are allowed that individual determination. And if they want
no
to
little
make
girls going to school,
if that's what the society decides, if that's what they decide, that's up to them. Yeah. That is as hard as it is for me because it's not my choice, but I don't feel that in America I can make the choice for them because I wouldn't want them making the choice for me. I would sit there and I would be the first one to be standing up and arguing and talking about fighting if someone in Syria decided they could make the governmental rules for Americans. That'd be a fighting. So yeah, I'm not going to go the other direction.
No, using American troops to advance human rights in other countries.
You said human rights. That's different than governance. I think that's to me. That's a little bit. different.
Human right, the ability to go to school. I mean, they're going to do what Afghanistan. Well, they could. I can't predict it, but they're going to do what Afghanistan did. And they're going to marry off girls at 9 years old.
They could. We don't know. We don't know that because Afghanistan.
It's not our role to. It's not our role to step in and say no to that.
Afghanistan is Taliban, and this is coming out of Turkey. So it's a little bit of a different flavor of the Islam religion. So we're not sure. We're not sure where they're going to go with that. And Turkey at one time was a somewhat functioning democracy. And last time I checked, in Turkey, they're not marrying off 9-year-old girls. I could be wrong. I didn't go and research that in the last couple of weeks, but my understanding,
thank God.
My understanding of it is they're not. So I don't think that we can say what's going on in another country. I think we're going to get something that would be closer to what's going on in Turkey. which would be a more slightly liberal democracy, but barely democracy. Again, I don't think Turkey counts as a democracy anymore. I think they're authoritarian. So I'm curious as to where it goes, but I don't think some of those evils necessarily will manifest themselves inside of Syria immediately.
What should the United States do with Syria? I want to hear from you. Give us a call. Join the conversation, 730-3696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Ohio in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Social media has erupted over President Donald Trump's dominating handshake with French President Emmanuel Macron at their meeting in Paris, as both attended the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Many saying that Trump is back to dominating world leaders with just a handshake. Others jokingly showing pictures of a broken hand and Macron in an arm cast. Trump took the time to greet U.S. Marines stationed in France ahead of the reopening ceremony for the cathedral. Firefighters were greeted with a standing ovation in recognition of their work to save the iconic landmark during the devastating fire in 2019. Trump was joined by Elon Musk at the ceremony and sat in front row between Macron and his wife. The ceremony was attended by hundreds of dignitaries, including Jill Biden and Vladimir Zelensky. Russian media is saying that ousted Syrian leader Bashar Assad has fled to Moscow and has received asylum from his longtime ally. The reports come hours after a rebel advance swept into Damascus to cheers and ended the Assad's family's 50 years of iron rule. Thousands of Syrians poured into the streets, echoing with celebratory gunfire, joyful after a stifling nearly 14-year civil war. But the events raised questions about the future of the country and the wider region. The rebels face the daunting task of healing bitter divisions in a country still split among armed factions. In Dallas, Christina Ohio, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. The Assad regime in Syria is gone. They have fled to Moscow, Russia, in order to save their lives. What's going to happen to Syria? They've had 50 years of brutal dictatorship under Assad. The new leader of the main rebel group, Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, called the toppling of Assad a victory for the entire Islamic nation. Great. Is this going to be ISIS-controlled public beheadings, no women going to schools type of stuff that we've seen in other Islamic countries? It's going to look more like Libya, where, the fall of Muammar Gaddafi and just becomes a failed state. What do you expect? And what's the U.S.'s role in all this? Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver. Good morning, Jim. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Syria and Iraq are going to alter in similar ways. But before we talk about that, I want to make a statement about the Bush family and their ties to Saudi Arabia. One, after 9/11, Bush Jr. and Bandar were smoking a cigar with their feet up on the balcony as those planes had unrestricted access to the closed airspace in this nation. And then part of the reason why I don't see the conservative party as actually being conservative is what came out of the 1980s. When those planes crashed into those towers, the Carlyle Group, if you know anything about them, there was a member of the bin Laden family and the Bush family in a conference room watching those planes crash, as they have over the decades manipulated the military for profit. So there are definite ties with our finances, our dollar, our financial system with Saudi Arabia and the stock market in a way that affects not only military members, but the society as a whole. And I wouldn't think it's a positive. I wouldn't even refer to it as anything to do with free markets. It's kind of sickening once you investigate what the Carlyle Group has done.
Yeah, see,
and Jim,
I'm sorry, Jim, on my side, that's one of the reasons, and this seems really weird, and I just want to throw this in here, is one of the reasons that I support America investing in more renewables and green energy, because for me, the U.S. breaking away from the chains of OPEC is the ability for us to give the Saudi Arabians the finger. And that's why
right.
I push for it. And again, I'm not this green energy guy, and I'm not with AOC and the Green New Deal, but renewable energy.
Windmills.
Yeah, I know, but green new energy absolutely gives us the ability to take away that dependent relationship with OPEC and allows us to deal with the Saudis on a level playing field.
That's right. And if we want to have control over the world financial system the way we have since the Bretton Woods in 1944, we are going to have to tie all forms of carbon credits to our U.S. dollar rather than just the petrodollar system. And the likelihood that we can get that done in the next 15 years is probably pretty high if Iran, Syria, Russia, and China group together in an axis, because I don't think the whole world's going to sign off on commie coin or communist-driven currency, because those commie leaders and their generals are stealing as much of the people's gold as they can in those countries. So we've got to stop beating up our own nation. This place is the greatest place ever, and we've still got people piling up at our borders, trying to get in here and trying to be taxpayers. Okay, so these people that come in and do this work, they want to be taxpayers. We've got to stop complaining about how great we have it in this fantastic nation.
Jim, I like that idea there. It's a good thing to keep in mind that, no, during this, there aren't millions of people trying to sneak into Syria. They're not trying to sneak into Russia. Yeah, you're right. Good point, my friend. Good point, man.
Jim, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. By the way, CNN's now reporting that Ferrari F50s among dozens of cars seen in videos that appear to show Assad's collection.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess when you raid a dictator's, go for the garage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Garage, and go for the stuff that he keeps in the bedroom, because that'll be the most important. Then you follow up by the office. Just saying. Yeah. But again, it's rich people do rich people things, and that's what he was allowed to do. So
40 luxury vehicles in a large warehouse in Western Damascus.
Damascus. Yeah, of course. So
red Ferrari F50, which routinely sells for over $3 million, a Lamborghini, a Rolls Royce, and a Bentley.
Oh,
there you go.
Those are nice. Those are good. I'm curious if he has any.
I was wondering
the
how
small
they got him
manufacturers.
out. How do you get a dick? Do you have to? You probably have to pay your way through.
Well,
right?
I guess my guess would be that you probably have access at some point to an airplane, and then at that point just get out. Because if you get, if you know the rebels are coming from one area, the one thing these rebels didn't have, airplanes. So get out that way. So I'm assuming
do you think they still carry beepers with them?
They probably have something. And again, here's the thing: is as long as the beepers weren't brought in recently, because that was part of the issue with the ideas they were newly issued beepers with the stuff that Israel did. My guess would be you probably have things like satellite phones and etc. But I'd be real curious what the conversation was with Russia to figure out how you're going to have asylum there, because Putin does want Assad there and does want to give him asylum, because that's another chip he now has in the game. That's a guy that owes him fealty and loyalty. That's a guy that he can use to leverage for pressure. That's a guy that can give him secrets. That's a guy that knows a lot about the region and can open up doors that Putin needs. And now, because he's in his country, Assad is totally beholden to him, because the only reason that Putin's going to come in and talk to Assad and say, the only reason that you and your family are still alive is because I allowed you to be here.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to own him. Yeah. So this is a win for Putin.
What
Huge
happened
win.
to the Shah of Iran? Where'd he end up?
I don't remember.
He ended up in France, didn't he?
I'm not the history person that Peter Boyles has always leaned on him for that. So
yeah,
I think
you just kind of go to these countries and then you become a speaker. Like you just
I don't think the Shah
speak
did
at
that,
universities and stuff.
I'm sure. And here's the thing is that if Boyles is listening to the radio right now, he is screaming at both of us. Going, you idiots! He is screaming at us that we don't know this. He is. He's so mad about that.
I'll tell you what we do know, and that's quality healthcare at Balance Well Space, right?
Yes. I want to talk to you about friends of mine over at Balance Well Space. They are a brand new medical office here in Colorado. Just opened up in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. Wonderful new offices. Some of you went out on the 3rd for the open house, and you talked to them there, and it was great. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me explain the difference with Balance Well Space. It's about integrated medicine. What you've got is you have all sorts of different modalities, different treatments that are available to you under one roof. You can go in and get trigger point injections, regenerative care, wave therapy, physical rehabilitation, neuropathic care, chiropractic care, and a whole bunch of cutting edge technologies and modalities that you really just got to be seen to be believed. They're all non-invasive. They're not cutting you open. They're not stitching anything back together. This is about maximizing your body's ability to heal itself. They've been using some stem cells and shooting them into both my back and also my knee in order to help me regenerate the broken disc in my back and the shot up a meniscus that was torn in my left knee. My left knee feels amazing. My back feels incredible. This is not what I was going through just 7-8 months ago before I started hooking up with Balance Well Space. The difference is that integrative medicine, and they basically have a one-stop shop. You come in and you hang out with the team at Balance Well Space. They do a pain evaluation. They figure out where you are and then also talk to you about your goals. What are the things that you used to do that you're not doing anymore because of that daily pain? Every couple of weeks, they check it back in with you. They reevaluate you and they change their approach to make sure you are getting the best results possible. When's the last time your medical team has sat down and talked to you? Have they done a Zoom call? They meet in an office? Did they talk to you about where your treatment is going through all the different appointments and how everybody's rowing in the same direction? No, they're siloed. All of your care is siloed into each office. I'm sure they can do a wonderful job, but they're not working together. That's the difference you experience at Balance Well Space. Talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, and the rest of the team and let them make the difference in your life that they have been making in mine. I can't tell you the difference as far as getting up out of bed in the morning and not feeling those aches and pains, doing the yard work, doing the snow shoveling, getting the Christmas ready, none of that caused the usual aches and pains that I have been living with for the past decade. That's the difference they can make in your life. But you've got to take the first step. BalanceWellSpace.com, or reach out to them, BalanceWellSpace.com. And when you do, tell them you heard about it here on the Jeff and Bill Show, because it sure helps us out. And I appreciate that.
That's great to hear, Bill. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the Assad family fleeing Syria, heading to Moscow. That's where they're going to find refuge. Part of the conversation came up, what happened to the Shah of Iran? I guess he bounced around a whole lot. He just took off and then started calling countries to figure out where he could go. He originally went to Egypt, but then ended up in Mexico at one point, United States for some treatment.
So you're telling me he's like that one dude who graduates from college and then doesn't have a job set up or an apartment, so just couch surface for a while. That's what he's doing.
If you have to leave, I guess it's save your life first. We'll figure it out afterwards. That's exactly.
It's like my buddy Dave after college. Dave slept on my couch for a while. That's great.
Let's go to the phone lines. Jack, Wyoming. Good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, I got confused. But we were talking about Syria also. But what happened was when in 630, when the Emperor Justinian decided to do the Codex, which was to codify all law, and in the process of all the people he assigned to do that, the research which Oxford University dug up, and by looking at the combination of Greek and Latin and all the different dialects when things were written, they found that 40% of the legal system that was put together in the Codex, which is basically the same law that we have today, was done by one person, 40%, and his name was Opalon, and he was Syrian. But that's really important, because that same Codex that Justinian put together, that law is basically the same law almost everywhere. I mean, even in Cuba, before Castro took over, they had a court system that was identical to ours. Their currency was on one-to-one par with the U.S. dollar. I mean, there was so much of this stuff that was so standardized. People don't understand that. But, they think our legal system is unique. It all comes from Opalon.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you.
All right. I guess we'll dive into that.
Man.
Something
Thanks,
to Google
Jack.
today.
Dude,
to check out the great contributions of Syria to Western civilization.
I always like it when the callers come in and make us smarter. I like that. That's because there are certain things.
I see a thing called the Aleppo Codex, but not the Syrian Codex.
But it could be Assyrian too, because before the country was known as Syria, it was Assyria. Yeah, it's to be ASSY. But I don't have to see. Yeah. I love when they're able to do that. Yeah, and I think this is going to be
Codex.
Yeah, and I think this would be it's going to be a weird thing for the U.S. because we're going to have to try to go hands off with Syria, but that's not necessarily how we're always wired and what we're going to do.
Yeah, including our own personal lives.
Oh yeah, exactly. So yeah, and
as of January 1st, by the way, no more holding cell phones while you drive.
That's weird. What do you think about that?
Those same people are just going to let Syria sit there and dissolve.
Yeah, that's weird to not even be able to hold the cell phone when you drive, because the thing for me is I don't have Bluetooth inside of my old car. So what the hell am I supposed to do? You don't want me putting earphones in to listen to the phone call, do you? No.
Yeah, you're gonna have to buy one of those little holders that all the Uber drivers have.
Oh, that's stupid. I'll just
all right. Donald Trump at the reopening of Notre Dame over the weekend. We're going to talk that next. Plus, he has a new fragrance line, which is just incredible. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
KNUS Sanctuary.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you can thank Donald Trump. You're never going to have to hear that cackle again. Good morning. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. We're off and running. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this right here is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Headline coming from CNN: Trump returns to the world stage for Notre Dame Cathedral reopening in Paris. By the way, Can we make cathedrals great as the center of American cities again? Like really invest in them, go to church regularly, make them really special and awesome, because I think our country would be better if we did. This from CNN. The Notre Dame Cathedral provided the luminous backdrop for President-elect Donald Trump's return to the geopolitical stage on Saturday, when French officials put an ornate line under the 5-year project to restore the soaring landmark with a reopening ceremony featuring dozens of world leaders. Trump, who's set to return to the White House in little over 6 weeks, arrived in Paris at a pivotal moment for governments in Western Europe. The region, like France itself, is caught between a wavering liberal democratic order and the rising of conservative movements that aim to upend it. I don't know if you saw the videos of it, but DJT was the center of attention, even drew the eye of a certain lady named Dr. Jill Biden. That is lending itself now to a new fragrance ad campaign by Donald Trump. Not making any of this up. Wait till you hear. But first, news and comment from Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing that. Jeff, 31 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 37 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad no longer in power and has fled the country after rebels seized the capital of Damascus. Richard Engel, NBC News.
We are now inside Syria. We just crossed the border, and you can see there are no controls anymore. The government is gone. There are rebels, gunmen on the street. People are proud of this new dawn and still in disbelief that Assad is really gone. As we drove to the capital, we passed boys on an abandoned government tank cheering Hurriya, Arabic for freedom.
Opposition forces declared Syria liberated from the 24-year-old rule of al-Assad after over a decade of fighting his regime. Meantime, Russia confirms that it has granted asylum to the now former president of Syria.
Now, Blake,
yes.
If our government collapsed, what do you think you'd do? Would you go
our
like
government collapsed?
Yeah, like
it
these guys.
It depends who's
some of these
in
folks.
charge.
Some of these folks went over to Assad and just stole his cars.
You know,
like they're like, a Ferrari F-150.
If it
That's
collapsed
mine now.
while Biden was there, you know, maybe. You know, I don't know. That's a good question.
Like I was
first
watching.
I would pray.
Yeah, seriously. I was watching
pray.
Contagion, which is a film about a pandemic, which was weird because I was on a plane watching it. And
oh, great.
And you watch society kind of collapse under that, which it really didn't in America, right? We got angry, but we didn't loot in the ways that the movie did. And in this case, yeah, especially around BLM. But in the case with Assad's regime, like you just were reporting, like kids dancing on tanks. The NBC just said they just walked right through the border. There's nobody there.
Right.
So,
everyone's got.
I mean, this is just a thought exercise. But if that ever happened in America, do you think you'd just kind of hunker down?
Yes.
Just go, okay, we're going to get as much food and protect our water as we can, and we're just going to see what happens.
Absolutely. I'd make sure I'm heavily armed.
Yeah.
And,
right.
and I would get with all family and friends and figure out the next steps. You know?
Yeah.
That's what everyone would do, I would imagine. But it depends. I mean, if you're liberated like they are, and a dictator's going down, but as you and Billy talked about last hour, you know, there are so many speed bumps and dangers with the new government as well. And who's going to take over? But if you're liberated, that's a whole different thing, man. I don't know. It's frightening. We are so blessed to be in this country.
Yes.
And
Amen.
just, so I don't know. It's a good question, though. DJT says children born in the U.S., speaking of that, being blessed, could be deported if their parents are in the country illegally. He was on NBC with Kirsten Welker on Sunday. Trump said he doesn't want to break up families, so children may have to leave alongside their parents here illegally once he takes office. How about dreamers?
The dreamers are going to come later, and we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now.
The NYPD is releasing new pictures of the suspect wanted in last week's deadly shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Police are showing photos of the masked man from what looks to be inside a taxi as they are still trying to identify him. The FBI is now joining the NYPD in the investigation and is offering a $50,000 reward in the case.
I say I've lived in hell for 4 years. That's absolutely what I have done.
Wow. What's going on in Douglas County? Friday, County Commissioner Laura Thomas resigned early because Thomas says the treatment from Abe Layden and George Teal.
These two George Teal and Abe Layden have censured me. They censured me because Layden and I directed the Cultural Council to spend excess revenues from the Scientific and Cultural District in Douglas County, and they refused to do that. I published a link to the county's website that listed the individuals on the Cultural Council. I think the public has a right to know who is spending their money and how. And because I did that action, I was censured.
She was asked to move her office a month before she was scheduled to leave, and that didn't help matters. She said she's sad because she's been in public service her entire life. Layden and Teal said that they were transitioning the office and both unable to be on with Jeff and Billy this morning. Dana Carvey and David Spade on, is it Spade? Yeah, Spade on SNL. And I guess now it's safe, to do a skit on Hunter Biden, only 4 years late, but it's pretty good stuff, I guess.
My next guest is someone who actually is a lot like Jesus because he also has a dad named Joseph, whose life is made way more complicated because of him. Please welcome the one and only Hunter Biden.
Hi there, church lady. Haven't been here in a while. I've been laying low a little bit.
Oh, I think that's okay. At least you haven't been doing a podcast.
Easy, church woman.
Oh, Hunter, it's actually church lady.
Oh, well, pardon me.
Pardon you? Who do you think I am? Your daddy?
All right, so they tried. Man, there's so much material over the past 16, 20 years, and haven't been able to do any of it. Well, at least 16 years, so maybe they'll get back on track. We shall see. CU Buffs will play BYU in the Alamo Bowl on the 28th in San Antonio. CSU will take on Miami of Ohio in the Arizona Bowl, also on the 28th. And then the first ever 12-team college football playoff bracket revealed in the first round. College football playoffs coming up this week. Notre Dame playing host to Indiana. That's going to be a great one. Then November 21st, it'll be SMU at Penn State, Clemson at Texas, and Tennessee at Ohio State. 29 in Parker, 30 in Lakewood, 31 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
A bit of a change in the weather for Denver in the Front Range. It's going to be a lot colder this week as daytime temperature readings are going to be only in the 30s today and probably only upper 30s tomorrow as a cold front sweeps through the region. For today, tonight, and early Tuesday, we may see a few snow flurries. Lows tonight, upper teens to near 20. Lows tomorrow night, teens and lower 20s. Sunny, back to the 40s and 50s. Breezy, probably dry again for Wednesday and Thursday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So Donald Trump returns to the world stage for Notre Dame Cathedral reopening in Paris. It had been shut for 5 years following this fire building. Now, Billy, I saw pictures of Trump with the president of France. I saw him meeting the Prince of Wales, Prince William. I saw a really funny meme, by the way, that was between the two of them going, no, you can have Harry. No, you can have Harry. No, you can. And then pictures of the president and Jill Biden as well, President-elect Donald Trump. I mean, it seems like in many ways he's already back in office. He's flying to these countries. He's meeting with world leaders. He's sitting down with the media. It was a busy weekend for him. I have no idea what Joe Biden did this weekend.
No, and probably the less the better, in all honesty. You know. I don't want to make any
I'm so glad
right now.
you said that. I feel, Bill, like you've come around a little bit.
It doesn't mean I'm a Trump fan. I can be honest about, I can be honest about the car crash, yes, that exists in the White House Oval Office right now. Yeah, it is.
I mean, and Biden's a Catholic.
Yeah.
Trump's not.
Yeah. But yeah, Trump doesn't seem to have any appreciable religion at all, which is unique and different. But yeah, well, other than
goes to the Notre Dame reopening where Joe Biden was not.
Yeah, and it's curious. I mean, I'm curious to see that the holy water didn't leave scars on some of those people there. It's because it sure should have.
Well, speaking of holy water,
one person out. I'm saying there's a bunch of people there that should have been scarred. Yes.
All right, so Bill, I know you're a fragrance guy.
Yes, I am.
And I've already gotten you your Christmas gift, but if I hadn't, this would have absolutely been it. And maybe, depending on the price, maybe I'll still get it for you.
No, don't do that.
Donald Trump has a new perfume and cologne out.
Oh, goody.
It's called Fight, Fight, Fight because they represent us winning, he says. Great Christmas gifts for the entire family. You can go to gettrumpfragrances.com and buy your fragrance there. Okay, so, but bro, the advertisement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is remarkable. He posted it on Truth Social. And while Trump was at Notre Dame over the weekend, he sat very close, one seat away from the First Lady currently of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden. And at one point, a photographer catches her with a bit of a smile on her face as she looks into Donald Trump's eyes. He has now taken that picture, put his fragrance at the bottom of it, and written, a fragrance your enemies can't resist.
That's clever. That is funny. That is funny. But the name of it's Fight, Fight, Fight. I don't know.
Fight, fight, fight. Oh, I think Billy's answering the phone right now, or we got disconnected. But a fragrance your enemies can't resist. Now, Bill, you are a fragrance guy. You're an expert in perfumes.
Yes.
And
sir.
You've even offered to take me. You gotta help me understand a little bit of your fascination, your expertise, your professionalism around fragrances.
Well, it again, it's depending on who the person is. It's just something that I've always enjoyed. I grew up, my mom wore Chanel No. 5. I can pick those scents out. It was just always something that was important to me. I can still identify the 3 brands of cologne that my father used along with his aftershave. It just was something that was constant in my life. And it was something that I, leaned into as far as cologne a little bit earlier than most, learning not to bathe in it, but exactly how it should be used. And I have, let me think here right now. 1, 2, 3, I probably have 6 or 7 different colognes at home that I use, and some of them are somewhat more obscure than others. And again, it's about, for me, it's a very special gift, and it's very personable, because you have to really understand who the person is. You have to be around them. You have to have noticed the scents they use. And then you also have to be able to recognize what those, I wouldn't say flavor but scent profiles, what works with certain, and you also have to take into consideration body chemistry, because everybody's pH balance on their skin is going to be different. So it's going to interact differently with the cologne, especially over the course of time. What it's going to smell like in the first 15 minutes is going to be different than what it'll smell like in an hour to 2 hours. And you really have to understand that. So, but it's a matter of, knowing who the person is and understanding what they like to smell like, and then going and finding that. And there's some joy to it. There's a real art to understanding it.
You're full of surprises. Now, Fight is on sale for $200.
Jeez, that's ridiculous. Well, again, okay, how much? How many ounces for 200? What are we looking at?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
product details. By the way, I'm at gettrumpfragrances.com. Here's the description.
Yeah.
Introducing Fight for Men, the bold new fragrance from Trump Fragrances for patriots who never back down like Donald Trump. This scent is your rallying cry in a bottle. I'm not kidding you. This is actually the description. Featuring Trump's iconic image and raised fist, this limited edition cologne embodies strength, power, and victory, crafted for those who stand tall. This bold scent delivers rich, robust notes that leave a lasting impression. It's not just a cologne, it's a symbol of resilience, inspired by Trump's relentless drive. Wear it with pride and confidence. Fight cologne for men who fight to win and never surrender. Shipping now makes the perfect Christmas gift. I don't see the total ounces.
Okay. Now, here's a couple of things on that one. The marketing is written it's a nice targeted message, but it's missing some things. One, I don't understand the name Fight. Again, I get why Fight, but really, that's a name you're going to go with?
Dude. I'm so inspired right now. I want to buy this.
Oh God, no. That is an
$200.
That's
whoa.
For a cologne, Fight. That's an awful name.
I want to go. Can I go to Macy's and smell it? Do you think they'll carry Fight?
Probably not. Because that would have to be, he'd have to go through a reseller, and he doesn't want to give up his markup that going from wholesale to retail, because he's going to lose out. His markup selling directly to consumer is going to be much higher based on percentage. So getting it in stores is going to be, And again, his fans are so devoted, he doesn't need store distribution. He can do this all through social media and through websites. And again, his margin is going to be much higher. So there's no reason to do actual distribution. The other part is in that ad you read there was no description of the scent. And that to me shows exactly how well Donald Trump knows his audience, because they don't care. It could be a strange mixture of leftover gym socks, spoiled chicken, and vomit from a 2-year-old baby, and they would go, yeah, because that's the thing is they haven't told you what it's like, but you're going to buy it. You have no idea. The thing could show up smelling like a mixture of cotton candy, rose petals, and kitten tears. No idea, but you're going to buy it. You have no idea what that flavor, what that scent profile is. And again, if you're really going out there to buy cologne, then you should know what works well with your body and your chemistry. You should have an idea of what scents you like. And so this is one of those like, no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to the core audience. What it smells like is irrelevant, because it has the picture of Trump on it and it says fight. And that's all they need to know. That's it. They'll plop down the $200 regardless of how large that bottle is, simply because it says fight, and it has Donald Trump on it. What it smells like is completely irrelevant. That doesn't matter at all. It could be completely invisible. Could be just water in that bottle, and it wouldn't matter to them.
There is a ladies' version. Fight for Women, the empowering new perfume from Trump Fragrances for women who embody strength and grace like President Trump.
There's an E.G. Carroll joke in there that I really should make that I'm not going to. I'm really not going to make that joke here today.
Oh my gosh. This scent is your call to action. With Trump's iconic image and raised fist, this limited edition perfume represents confidence, resilience, and victory. Crafted for those who rise to every challenge, this elegant scent blends delicate floral notes.
There we go. See, I was wondering where I was going to get to that.
A burst of citrus for an elegant finish, presented in a stunning white and gold bottle. It's more than a fragrance. It's a symbol of determination inspired by Trump's unwavering spirit. Wear it as a reminder to take on the world with poise.
See, now there.
Fight, fight, fight. Perfume for women.
Again.
For women who fight to win with strength and grace.
Again. Now, again, listen to the marketing and then how that has been crafted is incredible. One, we did lean into a hint of what the scent is like, which you need for the female audience. Obviously, the men don't need it because have you smelled us? What we smell like is not important, so we're stinky most of the time. So that's not important. They did lean into it, but it's a passing reference. They don't talk about where it's sourced from. They don't talk about the chemistry. They don't talk about who went involved in creating it or the why. They don't tell you the story behind the scent that it's going to be in there in the bottle, which is normally where you go with those type of marketing ideas. But this one is more about image. This has very little to do. That entire marketing message has almost nothing to do, again, with what the perfume smells like. It has to do with buying into and creating an image that because you spray this on your body, there now is an image that you are projecting. Masterful marketing. Completely and totally ignores the majority of the way that you need to sell these type of products. But for Trump's audience, it doesn't matter. This works. He knows his audience, and there's no description inside the female thing at all, really, about the perfume itself. It's all about image and projection. It's an emotional sell, a strong one, but it tells you, again, who he thinks his audience is and how he needs to sell to them. That's fascinating. That's really interesting. I still can't get over the fact that he doesn't tell you what the men's cologne smells like. You have no clue what it smells like, which gives them a lot of leeway to just fill that bottle with anything. It could be anything. They could be doing it from the urinals down at the Bronco game. Good luck, guys.
So there's a website called Fragrantica. Fragrantica.
Okay.
I think it's supposed to be like an encyclopedia on fragrance.
Oh, okay.
And this was released 2 days ago and has a whole bunch of negative comments. So I don't think you can take it from them.
No.
I think they just saw Donald Trump and
yeah, that's probably review
has a
bombs.
rating of 2.19 out of 5.
Yeah, my guess is that those are just review bombs. Nobody's going to be able to get their hands on it that quickly. So that's just those are just review bombs. That's okay.
And then he created this brilliant advertisement of Jill Biden looking longingly in his eyes.
I saw the video. I saw the picture. That's smart. That is really good. and it does. And at first, if you don't recognize it's Jill, it does give that kind of polished, cologne and perfume image. It does give that. It does. But still, you're selling something to women. You're calling it fight, fight, fight. I'm very curious about that. Again, leans hard into the marketing.
Definitely know some women that'll buy this.
I know, but it's like, would you go out and say, hey, new fragrance from Marc Jacobs, punch him in the nose, find him at your local Macy's counter. Yes, try punch him in the nose today. I'm like, what the hell's that about? But that's exactly what we got here. We have Donald Trump's punch him in the nose cologne and perfume. So yeah, it's an interesting.
We've got to figure out a way not to spend $200, but for you to test it.
Yeah.
So if any of our listeners buy Fight, 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 and want to swing by the studio so we can test it, we would love that because it would save us $200.
Yeah, and I'll be looking to see if there are any of those inserts because sometimes when you're marketing, you get those, the little bingo cards inside, and sometimes they give you the samples, and that's a good way to test out. And also, I'll be looking for those to see where, and if there is a location that I can find where it is physically available, I'll go down there and we'll take a look at it and see what it smells like. I'd be super curious. I also am real curious. Again, this is weird. Is the bottle? What's the bottle, the setup, etc. I've seen the picture, but I want to know, what it feels like, what the weight of the bottle is, what's the depth of the glass, what does it feel like, what sort of spray does he have on the top?
He had some cologne that was called Victory by Donald Trump, and it is a gold statue of him on top of the bottle.
Of course it is. Why would it be anything else? Could you imagine him selling anything that didn't have his image on it or something like that? No. And of course it has to be gold. Has to be.
What did it say to you? And I don't know if you saw the videos over the weekend, but I mean, all these world leaders coming up, shaking his hand, wanting to see him, and even talked about it during his interview that it's like everybody likes him now. Everybody after 16, it was such a kind of caught off guard election that, he wasn't getting all the phone calls. Now Mark Zuckerberg wants to talk, and Trudeau's flying in, and he goes to Notre Dame, and everyone's shaking his hand, and it says it's even caught the kind of kindness he's receiving has caught him off guard. What does that say about him, about Joe Biden, and the fact that Biden's the current president? He's kind of just disappearing.
The idea being, we've all had those people either in our social life or peer group or even in the workplace that can be a little bit difficult to work with. You don't piss them off. You come over and you kill them with kindness. That's what I saw. I saw them looking at a guy that makes threats and says things that are somewhat divorced from reality at the time. So you go and you be nice to them. I mean, like I rode the bus with people that absolutely were, and I'm not talking about school bus. I'm talking about the rough, tough, and dirty, the RTD, with people that obviously were suffering from mental illness crisis. You do not piss them off. You are as kind and as nice as you possibly can. To me, I saw a bunch of ass kissing. That's what I saw. I saw, yes, you're wonderful. Not only are you tall, but your hair looks fantastic and you're so tan. That's what I saw. They're just trying to ingratiate themselves to him, because the one thing that we do know, and the one thing that has been proven on at least the international stage, in my opinion, is the ability to ingratiate yourself to Donald Trump based on flattery. That was when he left the office last time. That was the takeaway from a lot of international leaders, that he bends towards flattery. And that's how you get him to go the direction you want to, by complimenting him and doing it that way. You do that, and he'll do almost anything you want, was kind of the takeaway. So that's what I saw. They're all laying the groundwork, saying, yes, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're the most intelligent, bestest presidents ever, and isn't this great that you're going to do the stuff that I want to do? That's what I saw. Bunch of ass kissing. Would it be any
saw
difference?
America, the top dog is back, and everybody recognizes it, and they're getting in line, because we actually have a real commander in chief, not some guy wandering around licking an ice cream cone. We've got real American leadership back on the world stage, and everybody sat up, everybody noticed, and everybody got in line. Welcome back to the new United States of America with DJT as the leader. Would love to hear from you, though. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. What do you think? Donald Trump, world stage, great trip to Notre Dame. No Joe Biden present. What does that mean? Also, who would you buy Donald Trump's fragrance from? And what do you think it smells like? I think it smells like success. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
On Monday's Jeff and Bill show, Donald Trump sits down with Meet the Press for over an hour. We provide analysis with John Decker, White House correspondent. Plus, he has a new perfume out. Does it smell like 1776? Laura Thomas, Douglas County Commissioner, resigns. We find out why. If you missed the show, check out the podcast. You can cut and... Yep. On Monday's Jeff and Bill show, Donald Trump sits down with Meet the Press for over an hour. We provide analysis with John Decker, White House correspondent. Plus, he's got a new perfume out. Plus, he's got a new fragrance out. Does it smell like 1776? Laura Thomas, Douglas County Commissioner, resigns. We find out why. If you missed the show, check out the podcast. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. We've gotten into a fun conversation about Donald Trump's cologne. Fight, fight, fight. He's releasing just in time for the holidays. The description is amazing, by the way, but the best is a advertisement he has of Dr. Joe Biden looking longingly at Donald Trump while they were sitting near each other at the reopening of Notre Dame, and the headline, a fragrance your enemies can't resist, which is fun. Lots of text messages about this. Does it come with a Trump Bible? Jason in Denver wants to know. Another one, the bottle will be shaped like an Aunt Jemima bottle, and the spray will come out the top of a raised fist.
That's good.
Fight. I think it smells like 1776, but we'll have to see. I just don't want to spend $200 on it. So if any one of you brilliant, lovely listeners wants to purchase it and swing by the studio so we can test it, I'd be happy to. I'm not a big fragrance guy. My wife bought me one that I wear, but that's about it. Bill, on the other hand, you're a pro at this. But let's go to the phone lines. Dwayne Divide. Good morning, Dwayne. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, and you're one tree down because the Hunt family was up in Divide. Got a Christmas tree.
Yeah, I heard about that this morning, and I was in the middle getting little man ready for school, and I'm like, I'll get on. And all of a sudden we got through. That's fine. Take as many as you want. That means that the fire danger will lower itself to a point of, not worrisome at this point. So, yeah.
I wondered how the people of Divide felt, because as we were driving up and back, just cars full of Christmas trees, all that they cut down themselves. And it seems like it's a boon for the community of Divide.
Well, yeah, people stop by, get a burger, and they get stuff. They pick up donuts at the donut mill. That's really, if you don't go to the donut mill, Jeff, you missed out. Huge.
I didn't even know about the donut mill. There's that one little shopping center right there off of the main highway. Is that where it is?
No. As you're coming up and you get past the McDonald's and the Sonic and everything, as you come up, you'll see the little side street ones there. Right by the veterinarian's office is the donut mill. And you go in there and they've got a maple donut that's absolutely amazing. But I mean, all their donuts are fantastic. The hot cocoa is good. For people who drink the BioLiquid, that coffee stuff, people say it's wonderful coffee and everything. So, no, I'm glad you took a tree. You could take two. We have a small plastic tree, namely because I had to sit there and get my oil futures up, and I was like, let's buy a plastic tree and make it happen. So we just have, a little small 2-foot thing ourselves. And we just go with that. And we're always glad. You kind of missed out because Dynamite Chris was gone over the weekend. He's blowing into the side of his mountain hill, the hill on his property, trying to carve in an area that he can sit there and put his house in. So I'll be sitting here around the house, and all of a sudden you'll just hear, boop, 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 and all of a sudden this big, huge boom as everything gets ripped out. So it's a nice smell. I kind of like to go with, for scents, gunpowder. That's always a nice one. And the for the fight for the ladies, I'm sure it's pepper spray and some other little item that'll make things happen. But my favorite scents are in the leather variety, because it makes me think of a brand new custom car that I just had a new interior put in. And as far as smelling like 1776, oh yeah, no plumbing, lots of horse dung and everything else around, and sweaty people in wool. Jeff, rethink what you're thinking here. All right, gentlemen, the week has started. We are 20% of our week. We have 4/5 left to go. Let's make this a wonderful place. We keep smiling, and we make America as best we possibly can. And if nothing else,
Dwayne,
count down to removal of Biden. Bye, Biden.
I think the world stage has already moved on. But yeah, Dwayne, that is great. I saw a fun ad one time from Old Spice. Yeah. And it was like, and it's just aftershave, I think. And it just said, your grandmother couldn't resist it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. That kind of is, Old Spice is kind of everybody's first cologne. Yeah, if you think about it. Because when you're starting out, you don't really want to shave. Did you go through? Okay, I got a question here, Jeff. Did you go through that period where the boy puberty hits? School? Yeah, and you try to keep the little mustache going where it looks like you've done a box of Oreo cookies and haven't wiped your face off. Did you do that?
And you just douse yourself in it. And then I was just outside of the Axe phase, which was the middle school boys, but I did youth ministry, which means I was around them, and they would just like swim in that stuff.
Oh God, that was
the
awful.
Axe body stuff.
That was awful. I luckily had some older people in my life that were able to show me about cologne, but they didn't tell me about the stupid cookie dust mustache thing that everybody goes through. And the problem is this, and it's psychologically, and every boy goes through it, because psychologically it has taken you 12, 13 years to just grow this much hair on your face. You're afraid if you shave it off, it's not coming back. You're afraid you're never going to get anything else back. I can finally prove to somebody that I'm growing something. So that's why you always see it in the middle schools running around like they got dirty faces. That's why. They're desperately
So,
afraid it won't come back.
Bill, for all those young men out there that need to learn to put on cologne the right way,
Yeah, I know.
You said you know how to do it. So tell the folks.
The idea being you want to do a little bit of a spray on the inside of one of your wrists and then rub them together there. You then want to have a light spray. You want to pull all the way down. You want to do a light spray. It's about 45-degree angle on either side. So you're hitting the collarbones. And then you also want to do one right on the back of your neck. That's really the best places to do it. But here's
three sprays.
But you don't go the whole thing down. You don't go the whole thing. They're light. You've got to understand. And here's the other thing, though, is you have to work with it based on yourself, your body chemistry, and your clothes, because all those things are going to interact differently. Some people can get away with only maybe one spray on the front that could be heavy, and then maybe one light one on the back if you're going directly on the skin. But you go on the clothes, it's gonna dissipate a little bit differently, and it's gonna smell different. So you've got to figure out for you what that right timeline is, because you don't want it to smell like 2 hours later, like you just doused yourself in it. But you do want that fragrance to linger. The idea being this is how you know when you have applied your cologne properly, when you can walk by someone and the scent lightly lingers. That's when you've done it the best. That's what you need. You need just that whiff as you're walking on by. That's what it is. And so it depends with different people. But again, if you're taking the whole thing going all the way down, you're not applying it. I rarely hit that mister and go all the way down. It's always very light.
Nobody should use Axe, right?
Oh God, no! Don't. Jeez, just hit yourself in the face if you're going to use Axe. You would be better just rolling around in the park where all the goose dung is. You'd get a better fragrance. It's awful. It's atrocious. If you think Axe body spray is what you need, we can have some conversations, because there's so many better choices out there that you can make that could do so many other things. To me, Axe body spray is what you use when you have forgotten to shower for about 4 days. You just need to cover up the stink with a different stink. That's all you're doing.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're talking Donald Trump. He is on the world stage now. Totally absent from the world stage, Joe Biden. But Joe Biden was there. They sat next to each other at Notre Dame. She looked over at DJT, smiled a little bit. Cameras took the picture, and now Trump's using it to advertise his cologne, saying that it is a scent or a fragrance your enemies can't resist.
It's very smart.
So if you end up buying Donald Trump's cologne, which you can get at gettrumpfragrances.com, for $200, swing by. We'd love to smell it and have that on air. That would be a ton of fun. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, by the way, if you do that, at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We got two breaking news stories happening right now. Daniel Penny found not guilty. He was the Marine in the subway incident that took place that resulted in the death of Jordan Neely. In this case, Daniel Penny not guilty. We'll get the details on that. And then a person matching the CEO murder suspect description taken into custody at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania.
Those are both crazy. That's interesting.
Lots of wild news stories.
Yeah. After last week, when we heard that it was basically a hung jury, and they bounced out the manslaughter charge, then he was going to be found not guilty. That was kind of my feeling. I've been surprised watching the backlash on social media against the healthcare companies. That there were a lot of people that are like, no, I don't care about finding the killer. And I saw one person that really resonated with me, one thing online that talked about the lengths that we are going to find the killer of United Healthcare CEO, and how there are people that have been victims of similar types of violence across the country, but because
nobody cares about
they're not the head of a corporation, because they don't have enough zeros in their bank account, their death doesn't matter. Yeah. Also,
there's like 70 of them in Chicago every weekend, and we ignore them.
Also found out, and this may be something we'll play with tomorrow, that a member of my family had to fight United Healthcare tooth and nail for quite a while because they rejected a $97,000 emergency room visit. And you know what the reason they gave was? Pretty much it boiled down to they didn't think this person was in enough pain. They figured that based on the reason they went to the emergency room, they said, well, normally people in these type of conditions don't experience that much pain. We don't think you were in that much pain, so you shouldn't have gone to the emergency room. That's your decision. We're not going to pay for it. Claim denied. $97,000 because someone that doesn't know this member of my family wasn't there, wasn't part of the medical team, sitting in an office somewhere else, looking at an actuarial table, decided how much pain they should be in. Not the patient, not the doctor.
So as we wrap the show here, we'll continue this conversation tomorrow. A Manhattan jury has cleared Daniel Penny of criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a crowded subway. Was he prosecuted? Was Daniel Penny prosecuted because of his race? Was he acquitted because of his race? Is America still a racist country? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. And we'll continue the conversation tomorrow about the CEO of United Health. Continue to stick with 710 KNUS for all the breaking news today. A lot to cover and a lot of great voices to cover it. And then tomorrow, Bill, we're also going to talk with Step Denver, right?
Yes, Step Denver is going to be in the studio. It's Colorado Gives Day, and we're going to be spending some time with the people that run Step Denver and also sharing some amazing stories of recovery. If you want to make a difference this holiday season, no better place than to make a difference in our community with Step Denver. We'll talk about it with you tomorrow.
Great conversation tomorrow. Don't miss it. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Enjoy your Monday.